All right, people, I think it's time to start. So, yeah, welcome everyone. Um, I hope everyone's had a good day. And if not, we have something really good for you that will probably make your day better. So we're thrilled to have daedaePIVOT come for a masterclass for QWave. So for those who is not too familiar with QWave first, so QWave is a club at Queens that fosters the community of music producers, and we provide students resources such as tutorials, master classes, like commission opportunities, and free accessible software and hardware in the studio, all of which is free. We recognize that music production is not a cheap hobby, and that's why this club is formed. And for daedaePIVOT, he is best known for his work with Saba, executive producing Care For Me and Few Good Things. And he's a part of Pivot Gang. He's also worked with Kehlani, Wiz Khalifa, Black, and Benjamin Earl Turner. And so before we start, if you have questions, you can raise your hand in the Zoom. And you can find that button right in the middle, like bottom middle of your Zoom, there's a react button, and then you can click on it. There's a raise your hand button. We see your hand. We might uh, answer your question right away, or we'll see when it's appropriate to answer. And for those who are in person, just raise your hand and I can ask Day. And here's the credit. I just want to thank the QWave team for putting this together. And without further ado, let's begin.
All right.
Day, take it away.
Yeah. So I'm daedaePIVOT, like you said. I'm in Pivot Gang. Did Care For Me with Saba. Co-executive produced that. Co-executive produced Few Good Things. The last one. Work with Saba on a lot of stuff. A lot of other placements. Zoe, or you know what I'm saying, Kehlani and John Doe and stuff like that. So I'm gonna just talk about. I'm gonna pull up a bunch of these projects. We're gonna talk about some different things I did in these. I'm gonna show a lot of different processes I do and different ways I like to do stuff. A bunch of different plugins, a bunch of different drum folders. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get through a lot of stuff today, so bear with me. I'm gonna talk kind of fast. I'm gonna kind of get through shit kind of fast. So if you want to take notes or like, I think they're recording this so we can have this for later. You know what I'm saying? Do whatever you gotta do. If anyone got a question, you know what I'm saying, they're gonna let me know and we're gonna do that. So let me share my screen real quick. All right. So I use Ableton now for the most part. When we did Care For Me, I was working on FL Studio 11. I don't really work on FL anymore. I can't really show all the files from Care For Me. I'm gonna show a couple things, but it's not gonna be like the files, like the projects for real, because I don't really have that on here. But let's talk about a bunch of stuff. And as we go, I'm gonna jump back and forth. One thing that I like to do is that I think is really important for just being a great producer, being ready to be in sessions, being ready to do shit whenever you have to like jump in and do shit really fast is organization. This is something that I think is really, really important. Let me close this a little bit. This is about to distract me. Um, so something I really like to do, which you can do in Ableton, I think you can do this in FL, you can probably do it in Logic, is I like to favorite stuff. So this is like my favorite effects. This is like the effects that I always use on like everything. It's a bunch of different plugins I like to use. I'm gonna probably talk about a bunch of these randomly. I'm probably not gonna get too in depth because we don't have that much time, but so I have a fave effects thing. I have a fave plugins. Fave plugins is for like, you know what I'm saying, not effects. It's like pianos and sounds and synths and shit that I like to use. Um, this is not as full as I would like it to be. This is a bunch of tape plugins I like to use. There's also a bunch of other random shit in here. If anyone needs tape plugins, here's a bunch of them. I know a lot of people know about RC20, but OCS 45 is cool. Cassette's cool. Reels is cool. Satin is probably my favorite and most used one. Sketch cassette is cool. A couple of these are free. I think Super VHS is free. Tape is cool. Vinyl's cool. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of different stuff. UADX stuff is really cool too. I have a Apollo, but it like isn't working right now, and they got me fucked up. You can only email them at like certain times of the day or some shit. So I have this subscription now that they have, which is UADX. With the Apollo shit, you can always use the UAD plugins depending on which ones you've bought, but you can actually subscribe to Apollo, like to their UADX thing now, which gives you a certain amount of plugins. I think it's like they added a couple recently. Gives you all these plugins, which is cool. They're like damn near the same as the UAD ones that you would use. UAD if people don't know, is the plugins that come with an Apollo, and you get an Apollo, but you have to like buy certain ones. They're really expensive, but they're like the best plugins you can possibly use. This is like the top tier shit that I would most recommend. Another thing that people use a lot is Waves. I don't support. I use a bunch of Wave shit because I've been using it for years. I don't fuck with Waves, dude. They're kind of a corrupt company. I'm gonna just say that out loud. I don't fuck with Waves. That's some controversial shit. But they got a bunch of cool shit too that I'm gonna show today too. And Plugin Alliance is another one that's really cool. All right, so I want to start with talking about sound selection. As you know what I'm saying, we're talking organization, I think, is a really important thing. Let's move into sound selection. For me, sound selection is I mean, you know what I'm saying, as a producer, a really important thing. I like to organize my folders. This is more organization shit into years. So this just helps me know where everything's gonna be. You know what I'm saying? So this year, this is my 2024 folder. A lot of stuff in here. Mostly, I'm going to the folders that I have that year a lot of the time. But I've been producing for so long that like my original, this is the original folder that I use the most for stuff. It's called Albert. I like to name my drum folders literal names. So I have like Albert and Sharon and Buford and a bunch of other bullshit. Care for Me and Few Good Things and like RPG, the first Kehlani song I did. Basically everything that I did with those is probably in here. The first folder I really had was from, I was in a group called Chad. It was in a it was like a duo I was in. It was me and this friend of mine named Let Mode. This was our first shit. We were called Chad. This is Chad 2. And then after Chad, I made Albert. A lot of folders here, dude. And Albert is actually, I think, one of the first ones I did where I made my own drum kit. So this is just a lot of different stuff. Am I going through this out? Yeah. That I recorded, and I'll talk about that a little more later. Some drum kits, just for anyone to know, some drum kits that I really like, some trap drum kits I really like for that specific genre. Mike Zara Stash, this is a drum kit I really like. If anyone's looking for drum kits, this is one I really fuck with. Artist, great sound designer. I have a couple of their drum kits. I don't remember where they are, but they're in here somewhere. I can't find it right now, but maybe they're in here. There we go, 2020 collection. This is a really cool drum kit. There's just a lot of like really just hard 808s and unique sounds. I think when you're, you know what I'm saying, a lot of people make a lot of trap shit. I think when you're thinking about drum kits, there's a lot of different types of trap shit. So if you're looking for like skinny hi-hats and like kind of like short sounds that are a little bit smaller, which is something that I really like to go for, but with like hard 808s, you know where to look for that. Or if you're looking for like big fat hi-hats that are more like some future shit or something, you know where to go for that. Just knowing your drum kits, I think, is really a really important thing. Artist is one I really like. What else? Croup is a really cool drum kit for a really cool group of drum kits for like R&B stuff and more like, you know what I'm saying, Jay Dilla type sounds a little bit and just like stuff like that. Really like these drum kits too. I've used these a lot. I use these in some of the R&B shit I did. HHS is one that I've used a lot. There's a bunch of these too. I don't remember where they are. Oh, here we go. HHS. Really cool. Really dope drum kits. If I go back into Albert, in here, there's actually a bunch of something that I like to do that something that I really like to do that helps me with sessions is, again, organization and picking things in advance. You know what I'm saying? So I have folders in here that are just like, I'll pick a random like drum folder and just go through and pick dope sounds. So this way, if you're in a session with an artist, you have stuff already. Like I have all these sounds that I know are gonna be dope. You know what I'm saying? Like these are all really dope sounds already. Like that's a cool snare. These are hidden, dude. These are all dope. This is a sound that I use in a Saba song called Come My Way. And there it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just a folder that I made for that week of sessions, I guess, when we were doing A Few Good Things. I think we actually made this during when we were making Care For Me, actually, and then it came out with A Few Good Things. But, you know what I'm saying? Being prepared with stuff in advance, then you don't got to be sitting in a session like, you know what I'm saying, clicking through sounds like that. I think that's a really important thing to do. And it's not like I made these sounds or anything. I just dragged them into a folder. Really helpful. You know what I'm saying? Here's another one, imported, all tight, fire, hard. This is from the Foreign Tech kit. This is another kit that's really dope. Foreign Tech kit. For anyone who wants more kits. Foreign Tech, Dreams to Reality drum kit. Good drum kit. Um, so like these are all dope sounds. These are some clicks that I made. You know what I'm saying? Ready to go, dude. This is a drum loop. Like if I were to take, let's just stop and do this real quick. This drum loop. If I were to make something out of this, it's at 114. I'm gonna not make too much shit today because we don't really have enough time for me to do that. But if I took this and I wanted to do something with it, I'd probably take, this is a cool snare, but like for what I feel like I'm probably gonna use it for, I'm probably not gonna want this snare. So I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna take out all these snares. Also, while I'm doing this, hotkeys, dude, really important. Right now I'm using control and I'm scrolling on the mouse and that goes in and out. Alt, scroll on the mouse, goes up and down. Zero mutes shit when you hit zero. So these are all just the hotkey, like me doing all those things this quickly. Like I wouldn't be able to do this quickly, just deleting each one of these snares if I wasn't using these hotkeys. You know what I'm saying? What happened? All right, so now I have this. All the snares are deleted. Something that I like to do for, if anyone uses Ableton, something that I like to do for drums a lot, I'll warp it down here, have it on beats mode, put this arrow to the right and just pull this down. It makes it so that all the like releases of each sound are shorter. There's more focus on the transient. A transient is like the attack of the sound. So if this is without this, it sounds like this. And with this, with it dragged down, I'll just do it really extreme. Like super shortening the sounds, you know what I'm saying? So it makes things a little like bouncier and clearer to me, I think. So we just went through a fucking snare in here that sounded cool. That snare was cool. Let's use this snare. I'll put this snare in here. Just Command D, you know what I'm saying? Duplicate that. What's that sound like now? Let's group these, Command G. Like that sound already doper to me. This is a little longer than I want it to be personally, so I'll probably like do that or something and just like re-command D these. I also feel like I could like have like a clap or this is a great thing too. If you save in here, if you save like your hard drive, which mine's called poop. I made a beat the other day called Mother Father. And I know that in this beat I used a clap that sounds kind of weird and is a good like clap to layer. I can just go in and grab that. So any beat that you make, if you save your hard drive or like new projects, this is my projects folder. If I save my projects folder on the left, I can go up here, and this is one of my favorite, this is damn near part of why I switched from FL Studio to Ableton. You can go up here and you can search and just press Command F. So I can search anything. I can search percussion and press Command F, and there's a million different percussion things, which is amazing. I can search percussion loop even and get that. It's like Splice, you know what I'm saying, except it's right here. For me, it's like that, I guess, because I have so much shit, but, all right, so I just dragged this clap in here. Let's Command C, copy that, Command V over here. Just get rid of the rest of that, whatever. Let's see what this sounds like with this clap layering it. So now that's better than this. You know what I'm saying? That's more interesting than that. To me, that's already getting there. I'd probably put like an open hi-hat or something. Maybe like a longer one. That's not really long enough. Let's just use like the short one. Let's use that one. Maybe I put this here and just like pitch it down or something. Turn it down, have it only last a little bit. Or maybe actually I think I want it there. And maybe like another snare or something. I like, this is a drum kit I used a lot on Care For Me. Simon, P-S-Y-M-U-N. Really dope producer. Let's make this, you know what I'm saying? We're making it bouncier. We're getting some more rhythms in here that sound cool. Let me pitch this down a little or something. Make sure I don't got a tail. Let's see what this sounds like. You know what I'm saying? We got extra things happening. Actually, no, I want this over here. Maybe like move over a little with that hat right there, you can see. All right, so this sound cool. And then something that I like to do to make things, because this sound like okay to me, you know what I'm saying? but we could like pitch it or something, and that might make it more interesting to our ear. It got kind of stale over the last couple minutes of listening to this. This is a pitch plugin I like to use called Elastic or Elastic or whatever it's called. You can also use Sound Shifter. Sound Shifter does is a Waves plugin. Sound Shifter, like, you can kind of hear the artifacts in this, which is kind of cool for like making melodic loops and doing stuff like that, because it might flip something in a way that's kind of interesting. When I'm doing, when I'm putting like master, like fucking with the pitch on like the master on like a whole beat or something, I'll probably use Elastic or whatever it's called, because you don't really hear artifacts. You don't really hear anything with that, and it's like way, I don't know, I fuck with it way more. And maybe we'll get this kick to hit a little harder or something like that. I like to use this a lot for that. This is called the Pultec 1A. You got frequencies over here, so I'm gonna set it to 100. I'm gonna pull up the 100, make it hit a little harder, and maybe take some of the highs down. The hi-hats were kind of loud, so I'm gonna attenuate the hi-hats a little bit and see what this sounds like now. I could damn near do more than that. Or if you want it to be lower. You know what I'm saying? That's just an example. Like this drum loop is kind of whatever to me right now. It's like fine. But like another way to test this, like let's say I went and just fucking grabbed that's a bunch of my loops. Let's grab someone else's loop. Let's grab a Blex loop. What was I at? Like 114? This is at 120. Let's use this. Put this there. A lot of time when loop makers send loops, they send MP3s because they take up less space. So MP3s, just in case anyone doesn't know that, MP3s have space on the beginning. There's just a little bit of emptiness. That's why wave files are so important when you're doing like stems and stuff. But we're not doing that right now, and loop makers are not sending me that shit. So it's all good because I don't really want a million files. I'm gonna put this on complex so it doesn't fuck it up too much. This is at 120. Set it to 120, and we're good. Turn it down a little. Let's side chain the drums to it or something. We're gonna side chain 73. Pull that down. So that's like a beat. That beat's kind of whatever to me. But this the thing about like making stuff. You just make shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just use that as an example to show you how I might make something out of something else. A lot of time I do my own drums. I do my own shit. But sometimes I take other loops. I would say like a couple days a month, I go and just like download a bunch of loops from, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. This one's from Decap. Kalen Ellis got a lot of cool ones. The Count has a lot of cool ones. Splice has a lot of shit. And I just chop them and I reuse them. I'm going to talk about that later. I'm going to go through some of that later. But this is just an example of how simple it is to make something a little more yours. Like, I just made the releases a little shorter. I replaced the snare with a snare that I like better. Put a couple other sounds in there that make it bounce a little cooler. And you know what I'm saying? There you go. I don't know. That's just like a thing that I just did. Let's go back up here. We're going to talk more about sound choice. This is a beat I made. It's kind of like a Afro beat type beat, I guess. I'm not great with genres all the time. I think it's like some Afrobeat shit or some Latin shit or something like that. Using a loop from a friend of mine named Mike Barretts. We were making shit for like Blast. We were sending shit for Blast. And I think sound choices, this is a great example of sound choice to me because the sounds I chose in this are sounds that, like, for example, I wouldn't use in like a trap beat, you know what I'm saying? Which seems obvious, but sometimes when you have certain folders you're used to using, or you get too used to like the same shit, or you like the same, like I have certain likes and dislikes. Like I like trap sounds damn near the most. So a lot of the time I would convince myself like, you know what I'm saying? I could just use these trap sounds and fuck with them enough and like shorten them and change the pitches to make them work in whatever genre. And that's like kind of true. Like you kind of can do that. But if you really want to get to a place where you're really placing shit with artists that make this shit, a lot of the time, like someone who wants a beat like this is gonna be sounds like this. You know what I'm saying? It's probably not gonna be trap shit. You know what I'm saying? So This is an example of really specific sound choice, and I'm gonna just show a couple things, like if I were to use the wrong snare in this, what it would sound like. Snare sounds great, good rim, but what if it was a different one? That works, I guess, but that's not what you should use in this, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just a trap snare. You could probably shorten it and fuck with it and raise the pitch and whatever and make it work, but let's try the kick. The kick I use, listen to the kick closely before I change it. Kind of slappy a little bit of mid, a little bit of high in there. Like a J Dilla kick. It's like an obvious choice you wouldn't choose, but I just put it in there as like an example, you know what I'm saying? Like, why would you choose that? This is a kick that I use every day. It's called punchy kick. Whoops, wrong one. It's called punchy kick. This is a kick I use in like most of my beats. This kick works here, but it still doesn't work. This is a great example because it still doesn't work as good as that other one. So I'm gonna play it with this one. Sounds fine. But this one, like, you feel me? That one's a way more interesting choice for, or I guess like more specific and purposeful choice is what I'm looking for in this situation. And the way I made a lot of these drums and the way that I go about one process that I do, I like to talk about the way that I make things as like stacking different processes, I think. One process that I do is picking drums from like the same folder. So in this case, a lot of these drums, this one, these two snares that I layered, this kick, what is this? This is another layer of another snare. These are all from one folder. These are from an R&B kit that I use that a friend of mine, Elijah, gave me. Elijah Who, he's a really dope, like lo-fi and just like instrumental producer. I picked all these from like the same folder. These down here, this is a couple splice loops that I've just used. Don't be afraid to use splice, because this shit worked out really well. Like, this was this. And what you have to listen for is the sonics. Like, listen for what is in there. Because you could chop anything into anything. You know what I'm saying? That's a little of an over-exaggeration. But you kind of can. So if I listen to these sonics, I'm like, all right, cool. I can stretch this. You know what I'm saying? Now it's stretched out. It's like the speed I want it to be. I'm going to chop some things out because I don't want it to bounce like that repetitively. You know what I'm saying? So I chopped it up like that. I layered it with, I didn't really chop this one at all. I just like stretched it to where it needed to be at. I mean, this sounds like a vibe, you know what I'm saying? I don't really need to do much to that. That's just sit in the background, give me a little bed, you know what I'm saying? I just stretch it to the right tempo. These together. And then I really wanted some shakers in this, so I added some shakers in the next section, which just layer right on top. I will say one thing though, if you use Ableton, here's another little trick that I do. These shakers were not, if you look down here, I set a groove on this. These shakers were noticeably not in time with these. They weren't like grooving right because they were just straight. So if I play this without this groove, they're very straight. 1 E, end at 2 E, end at 3 E, end at 4 E, end at, they're pretty straight. So if I just went through, what you can do is you click on this little arrow thing, and it brings you over here to these grooves. A lot of time I use MPC or Logic Ace or 16ths or something like that. I picked, and it saves them down here too, so you can like pick more. Like I can add that one. And now I have both of them. You know what I'm saying? You can just switch between them and see which one you like. I picked swing, MPC, double down, 16ths, 60. And it changed it from this, pretty straight 16th notes, to this. A little bouncier, you know what I'm saying? So if I play this without that, this is a subtle difference, but this matters to me. If I play this without that, you can like kind of hear the shakers in rhythms that are different than the bounce of these. They stick out more. But if I switch it, that shit fits right in. And that's like a really subtle difference. But that shit really matters because that's going to throw off the feel of the song. It's not going to feel authentic, you know what I'm saying? It's not going to feel purposeful. So if I play this, you know what I'm saying, it gets into there, you're not even going to notice that comes in. It's just going to be a nice extra little bed, extra little layer. Oh shit, whoops. And then I didn't do a bass on this um, because I was gonna let Mike do the bass. I sent it to him and he did a bass. But if I were to do a bass, my favorite, like by far one of my favorite bass sounds, I'm gonna just show you guys, is muted Patitucci R&B. So if I did a bass on this, it would sound something like this, I guess. And this is a great example of this too, actually. This is something that I love to do in Ableton. I made a bunch of mistakes in that. I'm just fucking around. I'll probably play that for a while and just like come across different ideas, and eventually I'll do something that I like. And I press this. This is like the capture button in Ableton. Another huge reason why I switched to Ableton. This, you don't have to record, just gets what you just did. You can do this in FL Studio too. It's a little harder to do, but it's just right there, dude. This is a big, huge secret that or not really secret. This is a big, huge trick or hack or whatever you want to call this shit. You just play along with something, you do something tight, you don't got to worry about, damn, I ain't get it. You did get it. It's right there. I love that. Such a great tool. And something that I'll do a lot, like I made a bunch of mistakes, bro. We're producers, we can do literally anything. This shit is right here. By the way, same hotkeys, control and scroll with your mouse, and alt and scroll with your mouse, same thing. We could change anything, dude. So if I played a raw note, I could just take that shit out. I could just go like that. If I want them to be a little late to being sound like they're organic, I'll move that shit over. You know what I'm saying? Command click, by the way, is that. Or actually, I think command click is to change volume. So click and then command would be to move off the grid. There you go. Anyway, we can do anything, dude. Just you gotta know that sometimes it's gonna take a little longer for you to do it, and it is what it is. But I don't know. Being a producer is like endless possibilities, dude. All right, so let's that's that vibe, which is a vibe I really like. Very cool Afrobeat type thing, you know what I'm saying? But let's get back up here. So I used a bunch of splice loops in here, and I think that splice is like it's a really controversial thing, really like only in the producer community, which is really interesting because producers make other producers feel bad about shit. Like it's like bad to use splice or something. Like it's this like controversial like producer thing. Producers be hating on other producers and shit like that. I think that I've been there with splice. Like I think for me, the thing that I don't love about people who are like splice producers or whatever, the one thing about it that I might not fuck with is if you take a loop that someone else made on splice, it's like a full melodic loop, like Soul Surplus. Soul Surplus, amazing like soul loop producers. They sound like real fucking 70s shit. Super dope. They have like 800 different splice packs and like tracklib packs. You take that and you just take a splice like drum loop and put it over each other. That to me is like really, you're not really doing shit. You know what I'm saying? I think that that's someone who bases their identity off of that is something that I don't really love. At the end of the day, to backtrack, it's still producing. You're picking something that sounds cool, that you heard that sounded cool, and putting it over another thing that sounded cool. And if they fit together really well, you did a good job. You know what I'm saying? That's something that I can't really hate on for real. I think that if it's your identity though, and you never learned anything else, I don't really fuck with that. Like I learned how to. I think it's important to learn and learn and learn. Learn as much as you can. Do as much as you can. Be able to have, like I do, stack processes. Be able to have a lot of different ways that you know how to make beats and different things you can do. And using splice and stacking loops and shit like that is just one of the ways. Because at the end of the day, this shit don't matter, dude. People gonna hate on you for this shit if it's gonna be like it doesn't matter. Music is music. We're listening to this shit. It's audio. It doesn't fucking matter. The consumer isn't going to be like, how did they make this? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's fine. For me, I like to use splice in these type of ways. I like to chop shit. I like to move it around. Sometimes I'll use it straight up though. You got to let go of these views of other people viewing you or other producers viewing you, and even you viewing yourself in a way that you don't fuck with. Because like, I guess coming from a background of being a musician, I it's hard for me to be okay with not doing enough. And I think I used to, like early on in my career, I would do too much. I would like try to like add stuff, and you have a beat that just is like full of too many things. And that's part of what you need to do. Part of learning is doing things that might be wrong or might not sound great, you know what I'm saying? To learn how to do things that sound great. And I think a lot of that too is like even if you do stuff that's too much or whatever, like get good at being able to listen to a product and pinpoint what isn't good about it or pinpoint what is good about it and separate those in your mind. Like being a producer is doing a bunch of individual things to add up to being this final product that's one thing that a consumer is going to hear and have no idea what the fuck that you did to make that. It's just they hear it as one thing. But we know we did this and 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 this. So if I go back and listen to a beat I made and I can be like, oh, this is the wrong snare. This is what's ruining this beat. I picked the wrong snare. The rest of this beat sounds great. I need to replace the snare. That's a big important thing to be able to do. You know what I'm saying? So let's go right here before I move into talking about reusing shit and stuff, which is what I'm about to talk about. I just want to talk a little more about like picking just sound choice a little bit more. Like these are a couple examples of beats that I made that are from like one drum kit, like I was talking about a second ago. I'm actually just gonna open these. I think actually, did I save these right here? Here we go. Let's just open this. For this one, this is an R&B beat. This is something that same shit. I used basically one drum kit for this. It was the Elijah drum kit. Sometimes I'm a fucking idiot and I make drums like this instead of on MIDI files. Like this is just a mess, dude. Like what am I doing dragging in all these fucking audio files, dude? But sometimes that's the way it worked for me. This is a beat I made almost entirely from that R&B kit that Elijah Who gave me. And it sounds really authentic. It sounds really purposeful. All the sounds sound like the right sounds, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna just start from over here. Excuse me. So let's break this down a little bit. This is another thing too. Sometimes I make beats over some that you gotta be, again, like I was just talking about, you gotta be honest with yourself. I made this beat originally over this, I think. Which sounds cool, but I think when I listen to it, you gotta go with your gut, dude. When I listened to it, I was like, this is not good enough. This sounds cool. This could be cool. But like, this just not good enough. You know what I'm saying? I know this could be some fire shit. So I went and I looked through some other shit. Mike Barrett's the dude I use. We were making the blast shit, that like Afrobeat thing I played. Really dope composer and melodic producer. He's a really dope producer in general. He makes dope drums and shit too. But he's one of those dudes that like be sending out loops and shit like that. And he sent me this, and I loved it. I think I had already made basically all of this, and I dropped this in and muted the other one. And you know what I'm saying? Like, changed a couple of these rhythms to go with this a little bit better. But you know what I'm saying? Great example of something that just be honest with yourself. But one thing that I really like to say, and this is a big sentence to me. You are not your idea. So just because I made this over this, that doesn't mean I can't change my mind. If I can feel it in my gut that this shit could be tighter, I'm gonna change it. You know what I'm saying? Because I am not linked. My ego and my being and character is not linked to the choices I made in this. You want to make a beat and spend 8 months on that one beat? You want to talk about master processing on that beat and all this shit, and you could have done this and this and this? Nah, dude. And that's an early on thing that I used to do a lot, and you got to learn from doing that. So I think that's important. But I try not to spend too much time or get too stuck on individual beats or ideas or loops as much as I used to. You know what I'm saying? Do what you need to do. Don't get me wrong. Get the shit done. Make it sound good. But like, if you're spending more than a couple days on one beat, you probably are going a little overboard. You know what I'm saying? That amount of time on a song or on an album or something that's coming out and it's, you know what I'm saying? That's different. That's a different story. But like a beat or something like that, unless you're an instrumental producer that's dropping shit, which is like I have my lo-fi outside of my rap and R&B and fucking hip hop shit, and the Pivot Gang stuff and Saba and everyone else. I also do lo-fi shit, which is like beats to study too. If anyone's ever studying, you know what I'm saying? I got you. My shit is if only. It's if only lo-fi. And it's like instrumental beats we're putting out. That I'll spend a little more time on, but it's coming out. You know what I'm saying? As an artist. These type of things, trying not to get stuck. Let's go into this. These are the snares I doubled to you. I used here. You can see like I didn't do too much on a lot of this, so a lot of things are really just the right sound choices, dude. It's not always like mixing and doing crazy shit. Like don't get me wrong, like sometimes it is, but a lot of times, like with drums at least, if you're doing individual choices, you gotta pick the right sounds, dude. That's a sound I picked. I thought this could sound better, so I doubled it with that. I wanted a little bit of like a rim sound. Those together sound great in context. This is without one of them. This is the other one. I think this one sounds good by itself, but it hits a little harder with this one. You know what I'm saying? Didn't do much of those. Put a little bit of EQ on this first one. This is the kick. The kick I usually make hit harder. So this kick without drum bus is a great thing to use to make things hit harder. Without these, sound like this. The drum bus, a little more bass in there, a little more transient. Full tech, even more bass. I did the same thing I did a second ago, 100. A secret engineer thing that engineers do is you boost at 100 and then you also attenuate. I think it's at 100. I think that's the secret engineer thing. I forget what it's called. You don't have to know fucking everything, dude. Just use your ears. Like, I don't know, trying to get stuck on that shit too. And then I did an EQ. Sometimes I put EQs at the end of stuff, like visual EQs, just to see what I'm doing. So if I muted this, you can like see that the bass is like kind of widening and shit. Sometimes I like to just check and see what's going on there. You know, so I got some triangle shit going on right here. That's just cool. Chimes. But look, nothing on any of these. Shaker. Nothing on this. Abe, nothing. Tom. Nothing on these. I think these were from. Is this like? This is just one sound. These, yeah, like these are just two separate random sounds. Cowbell, nothing. Nothing on that. Shaker. This says something on it. It's like a backgroundy, like texturey thing though. It just has a phaser on it. I think the shaker roll was just sticking out too much for me. So I put the phaser on it. Sound Toys, great plugins to use. Phase Mistress, I think I just picked a preset. Don't be afraid to just use presets, dude. You know what I'm saying? Brought in another hi-hat in the chorus area over here. Just a straight one. Keep shit moving. Good things, dude. You know what I'm saying? So that's an example of one drum kit. Let's go to another good example of this, which is this is a good one. This is a song, this is a Pivot Gang song that's not out yet. I think I have like a version of it that I can just play and then we'll just look at it. So all those drums were from the Elijah Hu drum kit. It's not his drum kit, but it's a drum kit he gave me. Picking from the same drum kit can be really helpful because those are all sounds curated by like one person, you know what I'm saying? So this is a Pivot Gang song. It's not out yet. It's called Where Your Drive At. Let's see what this sounds like.
Waiting for the day, they gon' call it quits. Go what they know, but they don't want call it mid. Fuck up the numbers, you might get audited. All the cash that all them kids spreading down their arms, what it represent. Made it out the gutter, make them flex a bit. Vacate Mexico, but they ain't Mexican. You went for the time, I go for the win. I'm just a regular devil on me in the cellular cell. I was preparing to battle myself.
I love this beat, dude. Saba always kills shit. This is all, I'm pretty sure every sound is from the same drum kit. And this is a great example. Again, I made this over something else. I made this over whatever this is. I don't know what that is. I didn't like it. I muted it. I found this loop from Grant LaPointe. His name was Izzy at the time, I think, when he sent me this. He's got a couple Drake placements now. This kid's kind of out here now, but he's a really dope melodic sample maker. He sent me this thing, and again, great example of listening through shit and finding the things that you think are cool. Listening to the sonics and being like, all right, like what can I do to make this fit more for what I want to do? Because if I play this, it's kind of like free time a little. You can see it's obviously not like this is in time, but it's just like so open. Like I don't need that to ring out that long. Sounds amazing. Amazing loop maker, amazing musician and producer. But for me, I was like, all right, like how can I make this move forward and move along more? So now you've heard a lot of the sonics in there. So I chopped it and had them happen each bar. And that wasn't even the next thing that happened. I don't even know which spot that was. It was like over here somewhere. There it is. So that happened second. Great snare. So I got on the snare. So this is something I like to do with snares a lot. I'm just boosting like the fundamental sound of it. If anyone has FabFilter, the way to do this is you click on here and you go to slope and you just make the slope more like, you know what I'm saying, as you go down it gets more like boxy. I do that, and then I think this is called multiband compression, which there's the Pro Q3, but then there's also the Pro MB, which is another way you can do this, but you can also do it in here. I go down here and there's this knob, which affects the actual thing, but there's this like part above it that you can drag, and you can like raise it like normally, and then like let's say you want it, let's say you're putting this on a loop like that has a bunch of instruments playing, and you want this frequency to be coming up. Usually, hypothetically, let's say this is a situational thing. But like when that frequency hits sometimes too harshly, you want it to drop, you want it to compress because it's like annoying to the ear. You can do that and then just find, like, let's say the frequency is hitting all the way up here, but otherwise the sample, all the frequencies are like down here. Just put it like there, and every time that frequency hits, it'll drop out of the way and it'll fix the problem that you have something that's just like too loud. But otherwise you'll raise everything that you wanted to raise. In this case, I wanted to raise it in general, and then every time it hit, I don't think I really needed to do this like this, honestly, but like I probably just could have done without that, done without that and just gone like that. But like whatever. In this case, I did this, and I did the same thing up here. I wanted some more highs coming out, and I guess there was like a frequency very high up that I didn't like. I would shy away from doing too much specific EQing like this, to be honest. I don't think this is really that necessary a lot of the time. Don't get too stuck in shit like that. I don't know. For the most part, if I go to all these other sounds, I'm not really doing very much. I took out the lows of this, which is normal. It's a hi-hat. And I boosted a little bit of the highs. Don't be afraid to do wrong shit, too. Sometimes people be like, don't boost the, you know what I'm saying? Don't boost the highs or whatever. Fucking, bro, it just sounds better. Like, who fucking cares? Let that shit go. The rim, I didn't do anything to that. The open hi-hat, the extra hi-hats, I didn't do anything to these. Where's the 808? Up here. 808s a lot of time in Ableton, I'll just throw a saturator on. I think it just makes it a little louder and brings out some of the higher frequencies in ways I like. But otherwise, I just drop the highest frequencies again if I mute these. Just a little louder, a little bit cutting through a little more. You know what I'm saying? I dip the lows like a tiny bit. Utility is not something that's doing anything on here. I think I thought about like maybe I'm gonna drop it out at some point or something. I just like didn't do that. Hard beat. All the sounds are chosen from the same drum kit. They fit together because the person who curated that drum kit made great choices. The only sound in this that I didn't have from the drum kit was these, it looks like, which is an extra open hi-hat that comes in, which is fine. You know what I'm saying? It looks like I had a kick that came in here too that wasn't from the drum kit. I changed to a different 808 in the chorus, something I like to do. You know what I'm saying? Cool, whatever. Last one I was going to show as an example of this is a beat I made like last week. These are all just different styles. So this is another drum kit that was kind of some trappy shit, kind of small sounds like I like to use. If you're going to make some trappy shit for like Future or for someone that's like a hard rapper that isn't, this is more experimental, kind of, I guess, independent rap. Like this is something that I made for Pivot Gang. You know what I'm saying? Smaller, it's me being myself, which is the more you know people and the more the relationships are there, the more you can be open to doing something like that. But if you're trying to get a placement, a lot of time I probably like I wouldn't use those tiny little like small hi-hats. They're not tiny, but like thinner, shorter hi-hats for like a future song. I'd probably use like a fatter hi-hat or something, you know what I'm saying? So that's some trap shit. The other one was some Afrobeat shit. This is like some. This was inspired by the new Doechii album that came out. There's a lot of like hard kind of live instrument-y, hip-hop-y things in there. This is all from a Beat Butcher kit. I think it's from a couple different ones. He makes kits called Filth. These drums are straight from that. I think they were maybe like at a different tempo. So they sounded like this. And this is without the stuff. Oh, whoops. They sounded like that. I sped them up. And it looks like that's all I really did. And then I put, you know what I'm saying, some of that same shit. This is the Pultec again. The drum bus again. And but at first I put the oxide, which is it just was running it through tape. I really like using this. I think it like I didn't even put it on any, I didn't even like put it on a preset or anything. It makes the kick hit a little harder, I think. Just like a little bit. It's pretty subtle. But it ended up sounding like this. These make the lows come out more and shit like that. So otherwise, basically everything in this beat, except for the bass and the Rhodes right here, is mostly just like music chops and stuff from the Beat Butcher kit. Like this is something that he just had in the kit. I didn't shorten it. This is me and Burlo. We didn't really do anything to it. We just put effects. Well, we did do stuff to it, but like otherwise, it's not like the audio isn't changed. But it is changed because of these. You know what I'm saying? It sounded like that. Put this on it. Kind of fucks it up. This is a plugin, M Auto Pitch. This is free. Usually I just use the formant knob, pulling it left or right, and pull the depth down because it's like an auto tune thing. Really cool plugin to use for like loops and shit. Then the Baja Frequency Echoes is another one that fucks it up in a similar way. This is also maybe free. Actually, it might not be. And then just some delay. And that changed it in ways that I really fuck with. I think we didn't feel like it was full enough, so we added a low one. Which sounds dope too. It has the same three things on it, but we're getting rid of the lows because we did lower it so much. And then Spiff is a plugin that it's like a transient plugin kind of, which helps you get rid of like attack and things that are frequencies that you don't like kind of. It's made by the same company that makes Soothe, which is a plugin that a lot of people use for mixing that I'll get to later. So these together sounds cool. Let's listen to the beat. Here. Besides the Rhodes and the bass, you know what I'm saying? We did a lot. I don't want to say we didn't do too much, but like we didn't play that much. This bass without anything on it sounded like this. Guitar tool rack, vintage tremolo bass preset. A lot of bass going on here, so a lot of that out. And this is just my visual to look at. Let's go over here, see what it sounds like over here. Soul surplus is like I was talking about earlier. We take this shit off. It's moved one. It wasn't in the right key, so we had to find the right key to put it in, and it wasn't in time. Sounded like this. Somebody doing loops a lot. Find something that sounds cool. That's the instrument that you want. We wanted vibes. We like vibraphones. We found this. We pitched it up one and made it in the right key. We had to stretch it to make it in time. Put a couple things on it. Again, this is the frequency echo again. Fucked it up a little. Develoke, Sound Toys plugin. Made it like kind of fucked up. You know what I'm saying? You can hear that like distortion on there. Helps it cut through, and then just some delay. Vibraphone shit up here. Doubled it up. Doubled it up with itself again, except pitched up 12, something I like to do in loops a lot. And just added a couple more things. The initial reverse is on here. This might be free. This is making it kind of go in reverse by bar. because I think it's set on bar. I think this might be free, but how a space modulator, I don't know. One of these is free. Took some of the highs off, put a bandpass on it. Put those together. Like add some shit. This is from the Beat Butcher shit again. This is one of his things. The vocoder at the bottom left is a really cool. I'm kind of showing some of the things I do in loops, and I'll talk about loops a little bit too, as long as we get to that. This is a really cool thing that you can do to just make things sound cooler. You can get all kinds of shit from anywhere, from Splice and whatever, and make it sound just totally different and inspire yourself in lots of ways using plugins. And this is one. So let's take this off. This is what it sounded like. You put the vocoder on. It opens with enhance off and noise, I think. So this is what it would have sounded like. Whack. We put enhance on. We go to modulator. And then the depth, I think, starts at 0. You pull the depth up or down. So that sounds cool, dude. That sounds like a really cool texture that you can put in the background or something. And that's exactly what we did. So there you have it, dude. A couple different beats that were made fairly all from like one drum kit and just a couple other ideas. So just showing examples of why choosing one drum kit, I think, is a cool thing to do for sound design, for sound choice, like for drums. And if I look at these, a lot of these, I didn't really show that, but a lot of these have a lot of stuff on the master. But in previous years, like when I was doing, let's open that. When I used to do stuff in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, I wasn't really putting anything on my masters. A large majority of my placements that I got, my charger's unplugged. A lot of the placements I've gotten have been, you know what I'm saying, I didn't really put shit on the master. I didn't really do anything crazy. And I know a couple people asked about master processing, which I will talk about, and that's something I really do a lot now. But when I look back to, like, this is RPG. This is the first Kehlani song, first Kehlani placement I have. There's literally nothing on the master. There's not anything at all. So for years, I didn't do that at all. It was just about sound choice and like rhythm choice and stuff like that and tempo. So don't get, again, going back to the same idea, don't get too stuck on needing to know how to do certain shit. Don't get too stuck on what other people do and having to do things a certain way. Like, just make music, dude, and gradually learn as you go. Don't get too overwhelmed by like not knowing this and not knowing that. Just keep trying shit, dude. This is a song called RPG that I have with Kehlani and has Black on it. I'll just like show a couple things from this. Piano, far away, retro piano. The bass is clicky 106 stuff. But I didn't really do much on this, dude. Like, as you can see, like, it's just a piano and a bass. I didn't really do anything else. I did. I mean, I'm undercutting myself a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I did some dope drums and whatever, but like melodically, like there's not that much else happening here. I sent it to Letmo, the guy I was in Chad with, the producer duo, and he added a couple cool things. This is a little hi-hat roll that happens. This is like a hat that's really quiet in the background, but they're super minimal. This is some chords he made. You know what I'm saying? But they're so quiet in the back. These chords, I think, I was experimenting with like inversions that day, and I was just like fucking around. I just played a festival with Saba or something. We came back to the studio, I was kind of drunk, and I was fucking around with inversions or like different ways of playing chords. And if you look at this, I played 1, 5, this is a C minor chord. I played 1, 5, 7 in the left hand, and then 3, 5, 7, 9 in the right hand, which is like, if I had done this in a different inversion, this beat probably wouldn't have become this song. So experimenting, trying things out, trying to learn, and you can learn anything from YouTube. You can learn all this shit. You can learn about inversions. You can learn about anything. Don't feel like you have to learn everything at once, though. Just like try shit, dude. Just like go watch a video about different ways to play chords, you know what I'm saying, inversions and shit like that. Looks like I had that inversion, and then I just moved the bass down to a G and moved my right hand just down to starting. So now I'm going from the 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 on the second one. And that's it, dude. I'm just going back and forth. This inversion to this, to, you know what I'm saying, a C minor to a G minor, it's 1 to 5. And here I just changed, I did a couple like variations. The top note is like moving itself down. Really simple, dude. Sounds really nice though. The drums are from one of the kits I talked about earlier. It's from one of the HHS drum kits. Haven't used this much since, but really cool sounds. Don't sound great on their own, I guess, but sound cool on the beat. Something that I like to do a lot is use situational ambience. I have a I don't know what other people might call this. I call it situational ambience. I have a literal folder that's just a bunch of background shit. Animals at a zoo. People at the beach or no people. Just, you know what I'm saying, beach, ocean, waves. Someone biking on a skateboard, birds, church. One I used a lot was people talking in other languages. There's just a lot of different shit in here that you can just grab from and throw in the background. This is one of these, and I left it on beats, which is crazy because I wouldn't normally do anything like that, but it sounds good in the background. You don't even notice, but when you play it by itself, you do. You can hear it like repeating. But this is a really important part of this beat. That ding right there. Ding, wherever that is, and this guy going, "Aah!" Listen to this. Like, what is that? There's a ding here. It's like randomly at a time, and it's just playing stuff in the background the whole time. You know what I'm saying? That shit sounds dope, dude. Didn't do nothing crazy otherwise, though. It's like a TikTok over here that has a pan man on it, making it pan back and forth, and then it switches to halftime. The halftime turns on over here. Pitches down like in the chorus.
Show me your love, show me your love, show me your...
Nothing crazy, dude. Nothing too crazy. Just the right choices. Didn't do too much stuff. Added a couple extra hi-hats, whatever. This song did take, I keep seeing like chat things in here. Tyler and Tony, let me know if someone's asking questions. You can just stop me at any point. This song took a while. If I look up RPG over here, look how many versions of this I have. This is Kehlani RPG with cut. 5, take 1. 5, take 2. You know what I'm saying? 6. I got up to 12, dude. This was because this is an interesting story of like working with artists and the relationships and shit. I ended up meeting Kehlani through Saba's cousin. Her name is John Doe. She's a really dope producer, or a really dope artist. I'm about to show a song I have with her, actually. She became a really good friend of mine when I was on the Care For Me tour, I believe. We were touring Care For Me after it came out, and I was like in Saba's, it was like me and Saba and Dawood and DJ Damage on stage. And she was in the van with us every day, you know what I'm saying? So I got to know her really well. We became really good friends. When we got back, she is really good friends with Kehlani. I didn't know that. She was in LA at some point, like a couple months after we got back from tour. I randomly get a FaceTime from her. She's just like in the studio, and she's like, "Day," and I'm like, "What?" She's like, "We're in the studio. I need beats. Her beats all suck." And she like turned the phone, and it was just her and Kehlani sitting there, and Kehlani was like, "Hey," and I was like, "Oh, what's up, dude?" And I just sent them a pack of like 30 beats, like right then. I just went through a bunch of beats and just sent them a bunch. They sent me back 4 songs, like 4 hours later. They made 4. One of them is the most fire Kehlani song I've like ever heard, and it never came out, unfortunately. But one of them was this, and this was actually a beat that I had made like I was talking about like right after a festival. We were all drunk, and I was working on like Tony and Tyler talked about earlier. I executive produced a project called Bad Nature by Benjamin Earl Turner, who is an amazing rapper and actor. He was like the star of a show called Blind Spotting on Stars. Really good friend of mine. This was for him. This was a song called Urgency, which is kind of funny if you listen to Benjamin, and listen to RPG back to back. Why isn't this loading? There it goes. They're like the same beat. Me and Dawood just remade Urgency. We made a new beat for him because I I sent this to Kehlani, and it was like, bro, I needed to take this play, dude. You know what I'm saying? So if I play this, I have two different sounds. One of them's on the off, one of them's on the on. Kick is on the offbeat, which is like something I really liked to do back then. Let's listen to this one. Ah, fuck. 1 to 5 chords.
She thought I was a demigod. I knew what she was working at. I drive by too many times. She talks like Jordan Neal writes her
Kick on the end, bass with it. 2 different hi-hats. Me and Daoud were on like a weekend. We were doing like tours with Saba, and we went to New York City. We were playing a festival. It was like the day after Mac Miller died. We were playing a festival in New York City. I forget what it's called. It's on some island in New York City. And we were staying in some weird Airbnb that's just for artists, where they have like a studio in it. And we needed to remake this, and we remade this, and it's basically this. Just different sounds, and Daoud instead of me playing these chords. You know what I'm saying? Interesting. Anyway, with Kehlani, this took forever and turned into 12 versions because I didn't know Kehlani yet that well at the time, and it was something I didn't want to like push boundaries and like talk to. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to do something I wasn't supposed to do. I didn't really know her that well, and she was super pregnant. She was having a baby, and I had her number, but I wasn't about to like, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't about to cross something I wasn't supposed to cross or something. So her A&Rs and I think like the CEO of like Atlantic Records, who was like really hands-on at the time, and now he's with a different label. They were hitting me up about this, and they would be like, change this. And I'd be like, all right. And I send them a new version. They'd be like, okay, change this now. I would change the structure. I would put this over here. I would add this here. I would add things. I would take things out. I would do this. And they would change their mind. I got to 12. I think I got farther than 12. I think I got to like 17 or 18 versions of this. And then one day, Kehlani just FaceTimed me. And she was like, what's happening? Why are you doing all these? Why am I hearing all these? Like, why is this different? Like, what? I was like, bro, I'm gonna be honest. Like, your A&Rs have been having me kind of fucked up for like 3 months. They've been having me change shit. I did this. I did a million versions. Like, and she was like, no, let's figure this out right now. And it's a funny memory because I had food poisoning that day. So I was throwing the fuck up, and she was super pregnant. So I think she might've been throwing up or something. I don't even remember, but it was really funny interaction because I was so sick, but also because like it just goes to show you like relationships are what makes happen, you know. It's like now that I know her better, I could tell her, I could just hit her up, do that. But at the time, like I didn't know what that was yet, and when she called me, we figured everything out, and everything was cool real quickly, like the day. But the fact, relationship wise, the fact that I from being like family to Saba, then being family to Doe, she's like great friend of mine, to meeting Kehlani like that, and my internet connection is unstable. That just go. That's a way that you can, like, a lot of the music industry is relationships. It's not always like going back to trying to know everything. It's not always knowing everything. It's not always being like the most amazing producer. This that. It's a lot of it's relationships and knowing the right person at the right time, meeting the right person at the right time, whatever. And that's how this song happened. So let's go back to the other file I was in, I believe. What was the next thing I want to do? Oh, let's talk about a couple more drum kit things, and then I'm gonna move on from sound selection. The last thing that I, besides making drum kits where I go through and just like if I'm having a session, I think about who the artist is and I pick sounds that I think might be unique, or just pick random. I have so many random drum kits that I go through and pick favorites out of, or I go on Splice. I download new things I can use from there. Besides doing that, I like to make my own drum kits, and I do this in different ways. One of them is the ones that are named here. So I have one called Albert. I think this was the first one I did. This is just recordings of my belt. Me hitting a bottle, dropping bottle caps, cabasa, like a shaker thing, other cabasa stuff, a bunch of clicks. This is the type of thing that I'll do when I need something more interesting or something new to work with. I go and bro, honestly, iPhone mics are really, the compressors on iPhone mics are really good. You can do it with an iPhone mic. It even makes it more interesting than using like a really nice mic sometimes, because this is like perfect. And if you use something that's, like fucked up or different, like when we're making loops, we'll do shit like that. using an iPhone mic on purpose because it sounds shittier and more character. It has more character. It's more interesting. I think I might have used like an SM57 or something, which is also not an amazing perfect mic. And I just drag in the whole file and I just chop it up and I make a drum kit out of it. These ended up being, this is Albert. This is my first one. I think this one and maybe like 7 other ones ended up being in sirens instead of using hi-hats at the end. If anyone's heard the song Busy Sirens by Saba, instead of using hi-hats, I used a bunch of click sounds. And these are them. These are all them. It's like chopsticks. It's a bunch of chopsticks that I recorded myself. So doing things like that can be really interesting, dude. This is the first one I made called Albert. I think the next one might have been Buford. It's another, just a bunch of just random cassettes opening, closing, like me hitting a chair with a drumstick, more clicks, bunch of that, crumpling shit. I don't know, fucking. I made claps out of, I was like layering things and making stuff. It was me opening a deodorant thing. I dropped something, like, I don't even know. I just name them stuff. I have Albert, I have Buford. I have Karen was another one. This one has like loops in it I can chop up. Sharon was one. Sharon, I think I started adding in, like I would find drum sounds that I liked a lot. This sound is from Death Row, which is a Pivot Gang song. There it is. This is what I'm talking about. Like I make these folders, I go into sessions, and I have shit to grab from. That's just like there already. QWave was a kit that I was using almost exclusively for when we made You Can't Sit With Us, which is a Pivot Gang album that came out in like 2019. I used BWB a lot for that. I used it for almost every track. So making your own drum kits, you know what I'm saying? Recording shit, just trying to throw shit together, drag it in, chop it up. Something that I really enjoy to do and something that I think is very, very useful. Another thing that I'll do outside of like literally making them from scratch is I'll, like I said earlier, make favorites folders. I started to make one that's not necessarily a favorite folder for this artist or a favorite folder for this session or something. This is just a general one that I started to make. It's called Drums I Like and Use. And if I make a beat that I think is dope and the 808 sounds really good in it, I'll just go to whatever the beat is. I'll, you know what I'm saying, do show and finder. I'll find the sound and I'll drag and copy it into this folder, 808s, Drums I Like and Use. I have another one. I have atmospheres. I have not as many in those. Claps, hi-hats, a lot of them. All dope hi-hat sounds. You know what I'm saying? Ready to go. Some of these are like sounds that I'll bounce from something. Like if I don't really, I would have to look, but like Darko is a beat I made. But a lot of the other ones are just, I'm just dragging things in that I've used and thought were really dope. So this is a great thing to do, dude. I mean, these are great ways to have your things in places quickly available. You know what I'm saying? Another, I also, obviously, I don't know if anyone knows that I do this, but I make my own drum kits. So this is a drum kit that I made that's available on selfie.com. I have it on my, you know what I'm saying, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. Has a bunch of drum loops in it that you can use that are totally mixed and mastered and ready to go. Sometimes if I need drums, I'll just use these because they're already made, ready to go. It has a bunch of analog one shots. You can just like drag into Command Shift T. You can just drag into, like, let's pick this one. So I can just drag that in and then, oops. I'm saying? Use that. Easy, great way to find good sounds is downloading drum kits that have one shots in them. And I can, you know what I'm saying? I have a bunch of these in my 2024 folder, Audio Love. I have so many different ones. These are labeled by when I downloaded them. I just have like huge folders of just stuff. And I use a lot of one shots from these, and they'll have phrases in them too, and I'll talk about that later. But reusing dope shit, you know what I'm saying? Like the Everyday Drum Kit has shit that I had made in beats that those drum loops I was playing that I had made in beats that the beats didn't end up coming out or whatever. So I put them in drum kits and started putting them out, and people can use them and stuff like that, but so can I. And I do that outside of that. So this is an example of this is a beat I made with Burlow, the guy I share my studio with. That we found, or I found a sample on TikTok that I really liked, and I wanted to put drums over it. And we found some AJ Hall drums. AJ Hall is a really dope drummer that drops like drummer packs. If anyone needs like live drum stuff, we found something that he made, but we wanted to like make it our own. This is what his thing was. Sounds great. Sounds great. But sometimes you have to credit these people and stuff like that. And I don't always want to do that because I would rather like do everything myself and have it be we're credited ourselves if it ends up placing. So we basically remade that with different sounds and in a way that we liked better and was more groovy that we fucked with. Sounds great. Great use of the Galaxy tape echo, which I really like. This is a UADX plugin. This is what's making this rim sound like this. And we actually layered his stuff in the background, just with a big bandpass on it. So these are some drums I really liked when we made them, and something that I do, we're talking about reusing shit, is I will bounce the drums afterwards. So I bounced the drums. I ended up in a Rex Life Raj session a couple weeks or a couple months later, had these drums among a bunch of other drums, used them again. So here's the same drums used in a totally different way. Same shit. Totally different vibe. In a session for Rex Life Raj, working on his album. He's an artist from the Bay. I was in there with B. Lewis and Blake Strauss, both amazing, crazy producers. And they, you know what I'm saying, I played these drums and they made all that shit over. I did a couple melodic things too, but for the most part, you know what I'm saying, now it's an R&B beat. Drums aren't out yet. The song isn't out yet. These drums haven't been used in anything that has been placed, especially not with a label or anything. So I'm not really worried about it, dude. These drums are tight. I'm going to keep fucking using them. I used them again. This is a different vibe again. And this is over I put a Beat Butcher loop over it. He's the guy I was talking about earlier. Really dope loop maker as well. Dope. You know what I'm saying? That just sounds cool. So that's 3 different beats I've used using the same drums. And what I do is I bounce the drums and I put them in here. I have one of these for every year. This is my drums 2024. I put them in order of, it's back to organization. I save things like this. My drums I save with the BPM in the front. So this is 69 BPM. The reason I do this is because you put it in order of name and you're trying to you're in a session, you're trying to find something really fast. If it's in order of date modified or something, this is a totally random order. If it was in order of name and it was in order of name by just F for 4 seasons, it would be in a totally random order. This is in order of BPM. If I'm in a session and I need some drums that are 77, there they are. You know what I'm saying? Or here's a bunch of drums that are between 70 and 90, so I can probably stretch them in a way that might work. So if Spacey Adams didn't work for whatever, you know what I'm saying? These are kind of off kilter and shit. If that doesn't work for whatever session I'm in, I have other vibes right next to it. And I save that, you know what I'm saying, it has an 808 in it. This is the ones I just played. This is for a blast song where I was making some shit based off of that fucking Lil Wayne shit. You know what I'm saying? A lot of different vibes right there, and there's so many, dude. Look at this. This goes from 69 to fucking 183. And then there's a bunch more that I just didn't even label because these are my favorite ones. And I'll send them out the way people send loops out. I'll send these drums out to people. I'll send them to Mike. I'll send Mike Barrett's. I'll send him drum stuff. And I do the same thing with my loops. My loops are labeled the same way. 55 up to 164. These are just loops that I also make loops. I'm more of a drum guy because I like drums better. I try to lean into the things that I know I'm good at and like better, which I also think is a great advice for people in general. I think as a producer, you should lean into what you know you're good at, especially once you get into the music industry. There's people that are like loop makers and they're labeled as that or whatever, and there's people that they show up to the studio, they have the dope loop that you're looking for. When people know you, like, what do they know you for? You know what I'm saying? What do they, when they hear your name or whatever, like, what do they think of? And I try to do everything. I try to be good at everything and do everything, but I usually like to focus on drums. But I do a lot of loop stuff too, and I'll get to these later in a second. I wanted to show a couple other just songs I've worked on that are just cool process things to look at, I think. Let's open one of these. This is a Saba song called One Way. This is a great example of using Splice. I had downloaded before these sessions, like I was saying, I had gone through, made some favorites folders, and downloaded a couple cool, just random Splice things that I won't chop them yet. I'll just download them and just be like, all right, here's a folder. Whatever this is called, it's called LOB 84. This is a Splice loop. This is what it ended up being for anyone that knows this song. It's called One Way. It's from A Few Good Things. This was this. Kind of whack, wouldn't you say? But I heard that and I was like, all right, I could do something with this because I'm listening to the sonics. I'm listening like what I could use. I made one thing like boop, boop, like I made this on one thing on like one track, and I separated the snare and separated the kick out and affected them differently. The kick, you know what I'm saying? I'm bringing out some of that low shit a little bit. Ended up being that. I doubled the kick. I think I turned the kick into audio. I sent it to Daoud and he did some shit, and I doubled the snare. So now it hits harder, and now you have this. Hitting, dude. Sounds cool. Not fully mixed, and you know what I'm saying? There's some frequencies in the low end that I maybe don't want, but that shit is a vibe. You know, and when you're making a song, you don't want to get too worried or get too stuck on anything. Just keep going. So, and the doubles that I did are very not interesting. There's a fucking trap snare. That's kind of interesting. But, you know what I'm saying? Put it all together. And that's me playing one note on guitar because I can't really play guitar, so I just did that. A vibe, dude. Ended up being track 4 or 5, I think, early on in the album.
Want the peace, but don't wanna die. It's a one-way street, though. It's a round trip when we fly.
And I'm like singing backgrounds on this and shit, but you know what I'm saying? It just goes to show you, dude. Using Splice, don't let people make you feel bad about that shit. Use that shit. It's the same thing as having this shit over here to me. It's like I'm gonna search some shit, I'm gonna find some shit, I'm gonna fucking flip it, like whatever. And we flipped it again for the chorus over here, did some more shit. I don't know. I think that's a cool example. And that one ended up being on Few Good Things. We made that in Oakland. And at the time, we were making like a lot of different stuff in Daoud's old place that he had in some upstairs weird spot in Oakland. And just, you know, I'm just, you know what I'm saying? It's just cool to use these like random things, dude. I just keep reiterating that. It's like, okay, you know what I'm saying? A lot of this album, or not a lot of it, but we started this album on Zoom because it was during the pandemic. So, that's interesting too. Here's another example of just working with artists. I know a couple of people had asked about like when I get in the studio with an artist, like what am I looking to do? Like, am I trying to make something for them or whatever, or this and that? A lot of the time when I get up with an artist that I don't know that well, so Saba's not a great example of this, I'll skim through their music if I haven't heard it before, but I won't listen to it too much because I don't want to get too much what they're doing in my head because I don't want to be too like making exactly what they maybe want. If they're coming to me, they probably know who I am already, most likely, and know what I do. So they're probably looking for me to be myself. This is not the greatest advice for like someone who hasn't worked with, you know what I'm saying, people don't know who you are yet. That's just like a thing that I have now, which is a luxury, I guess. But even if I wasn't someone that they were coming to me for what I do, I think I would still do that same thing because I don't want to. The best music you're going to make is you being yourself and not thinking like too much. You know what I'm saying? So I'll skim through things. I'll get kind of an idea, general genre, like where does this land? What kind of music do they make? What kind of sounds do they like? What kind of tempos do they like? And then I'll kind of go on and do my own thing. I'll get in the session and I'll just make whatever it is and whatever we want to make. Usually have a good conversation with them, talk about what they're into and stuff like that, and we maybe can work on it together. Oh, excuse me. But I try not to get too stuck in like what they're looking for. With Saba, there's a lot of different processes of ways that we made stuff, and one of them was this. He would bring like there's a Saba song called Life, which was this same process. He'll bring me and Daoud an idea. He'll be like, I made this thing. It's like kind of cool. And he'll like show it to us. And we'll be like, yes. And this was a great example of that. This is called, it was originally called 50/50, but now it's called an interlude called Circus or something like that. It's like one of the most streamed songs on Few Good Things. And he made the original idea for this. He came to us and showed us this with this snare.
Chillin' on the west side, everything was perfect back in 2012 before a record hit the surface. Had a few girl I was juggling, I ain't never did the circus. Had a phone by Motorola, but the bill was out of service. My cargo in and out like you tryna resuscitate it. Ay, we on the way, but only 50/50 chance we make it. Ay, we never say goodbye, don't see you around, don't see you later. Ay.
And we were like, bro, this is fucking tight. So my job here is to bring this to life. Great idea. But not where it needs to be yet. The only thing that I took of his that I changed was his snare. It had some like, if I take the gate off, it had some like afterwards shit happening. It's kind of long, and you can hear some high frequencies if you really pay attention. It's like, what? But it's kind of longer than I wanted it to be, so I used a gate. I did that same EQ thing I was talking about earlier. I used a gate to make it so it stops faster. See what I'm talking about? Just stops rather than this. Subtle difference, but just stops. It also doesn't have that thing in it. That was the only thing I did to his shit. Otherwise, I added some. You know what I'm saying? I brought it. Me and Daoud brought it to life. I added some 808s, really important. The 808s come in here. I added a couple extra little hi-hats and stuff, and I added some background percussion stuff. I don't know what this is. FJ92. FJ92. It's that. So I took that, turned it into this. Band pass, really tiny band pass. Got the mid-side G-Hertz thing on it, sketch cassette. Sounds cool. Put that together with all his stuff. Cargo in and out like you tryna resuscitate it. Ay, on the way, but only 50/50 chance we make it. Gives you the bounce. Never say goodbye, don't see you around, don't see you later. Ay. This really gives you the bounce. Cargo in and out like you tryna resuscitate it. Ay, on the way, but only 50/50 chance we make it. Ay, we never say goodbye, don't see you around, don't see you later. Ay, this shit kind. Chop something else. This is some random H. Cole. Let's see what this is. H. Cole. Some wild shit. Chop that into this. This is one of my old processes that I used to do a lot. I would like take random loops, splice, whatever, press fucking slice right here and just hit notes and then I would like layer drums on top of it. Then I go back and change shit. This is a great example of a process of a way to work with an artist. You don't always have to be like, let me do everything. Let me add chords. Let me add this. Let me try this. Let me try this. I added a couple drum sounds. Daoud added this stuff that comes in over here. A bass. He added like 3 sounds. Really not complicated. We came in, we did our job, we amped the shit up, we brought it to life, you know what I'm saying? And it's a whole song now. Doubled the snares, I think, too. So without these snares, it sounded like this with his original snare. Cool. But hard. And this is some simple shit. A fucking rim that's kind of quiet, and just a Lex Luger clap. You know what I'm saying? Shit's not complicated, dude. All right, let's go on to the next thing I want to talk about. We're still going. If anyone got any questions, let me know. We're still in here. You know what I'm saying? I told you I was going to do a lot of shit. We're doing a lot of shit, dude. I got a lot of shit to talk about, and this is a lot of shit that goes into being a producer, dude. So we talked about having fave folders and having stuff like that. I talked about, I think that that's a great thing and a really important thing for sessions. Another thing that I do for sessions, this is all things that fall under another sentence to me. Be ready so you don't got to get ready. This is like a football thing. I think a lot of football players do and talk about. I have all this over here too. Not only do I have my folders, say my drums folders organized by year. Not only do I make my own fave folders before I go to sessions. Not only do I fucking make my own drum kits. Not only do I, out of recorded shit. Not only do I make my own drum kits out of, drums I like and use, all this different shit, and label these things in ways that's organized and easy to find. Like, the easier you make things for yourself, the better. And whenever I do cool shit that I like, that's like effects on something, I save that too. So this is a bunch of chains, a bunch of racks and chains that I have that I use for things. Recently, Burlo gave me a couple the other day because we've been making a lot of loops together. And these are really cool for like making shit sound kind of like 70s and old. So this is an example of, this is a loop that I made. This is just a loop that I made that I took all the effects off of it. So I'm just going to play it raw. So a couple keyscape sounds, me playing drums. A lot of these have their own effects on the individual sounds, but I took all the master processing off. If I take that and I put a couple of these master processing 70s type things on them, just drag these in. OTT, Valhalla, we got cassette, we got a drop in the highs. Let's do that one too. Let's do two of them. This is totally going to change the sound. Another sketch, or I don't think the first time I sketched it, another cassette, another OTT. This is a really cool plugin. The Wolf compressor. This is a really dope plugin for like using, for making shit sound kind of like older. It's an older compressor. So this did sound like this. Now it sounds like this. And this is just a starting point. So for me, like when I hear that, this feels a little too saturated to me. So I'm gonna turn that off. Bass sounds too loud. So I'm gonna do that. Or I could even do that like this. This is something that I like to use to EQ things in ways that it has a little character, this plugin. The SSL channel plugin. This also, when you use the fab filter, when you drop the lows on this like this, it like kind of makes all the other frequencies louder, I noticed. And for some reason, this doesn't really do that when I drop the lows as much. You can do it right here. You can just take lows out straight up. You can start from the bottom. Or you can right here, if you know what frequency you're going for, which is what I use this visually. Going for like 80-ish right now. So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna find 80. You can see it's at like 84, 81. I'm gonna go around there. It's kind of a big dip, I think, unless you set it on bell, which makes it like really kind of tiny. I'll put it around there. I'm gonna just dip it. Maybe I'll do this a little bit too. Let's do it extreme. Too far, you know what I'm saying? But it's just, you know what I'm saying? Master processing, a big thing. If I take all this shit back off, totally normal sounding. Sounds cool. But this sounds like some damn near almost sounds like an authentic like old sample or something. And that's really dope. So, you know what I'm saying? Master processing on samples and loops is a really cool thing. Again, I didn't used to do a lot of that shit on beats I would make, because a lot of time I'll be in the studio, I'll be going really fast. I'd be like with the artist when I was making most things. So I'd just be making shit. Let's make another one. Let's make another one. Like whatever. But when I'm making loops now, especially on our own, like not in the studio with an artist, I do a lot of master processing, and I even have all these racks over here that I use for that. One of them that I use almost every day is I have master chains saved right here. So I'll put stuff on. Like this is a song that I have with John Doe featuring Saba. It's called Moody. This is a beat that has like 6 sounds in it. It's like nothing. But just as an example, I didn't have any master processing on this when I made it. It just sounded like this. Sounds great. But it's really simple. It's one fucking sound over here. Another 2 sounds come in. But there's 5 drums. It's really simple, dude. He's got the vibe there. But nowadays, I do things where I make things way louder. This might be a little loud right now, so just prepare for what's about to happen. It was just at, let's turn this down. I use this a lot for like mixing and mastering when I'm doing an engineer. I use this a lot. So the WLM, this is a way to check LUFS, which is like the actual loudness of something. Because you can have something hitting at 0 right here, right there. Let me switch back. So let's start here. It's sitting at -2. Let's make it hit at 0. Now it's hitting around 0. But watch what happens when I turn all this shit on. It's still going to be hitting at 0, but it's going to be so much. That was at -15 LUFS, hitting at 0. Let's turn this shit on and see what it sounds like now. Okay, that's a little more peaking, so let's put this back at 0 so we can really show it. Hitting at 0. -11, -10 LUFS, way louder. You know what I'm saying? This is a great way to check that. You can also check it with the Pro L. There's a way to check that in the Pro L. Another Fab Filter plugin. Bro, all I did was put standard clip on it. I just got this yesterday. I don't even use this. Like, I just this started at 0. I dragged the gain up. I switched to the soft clip. I switched the clip to Soft Clip Pro. And I like fucked with this soft clip saturator right here. Another one I use a lot. I use this for, there's a Pivot Gang song that just came out called Who at the Door. I mixed that. I mixed the beat. Jamie mixed the vocals. But this is one I've been using for this. I actually used this on the master to make it louder. So I'll pull the mix down so it's not like super distorting. And I'll use the mid side. I'll put the mid side. Where it's affecting it right there. Take this off. Much quieter. Standard clip. I just got this yesterday. This shit really bumps it. That's like loud. Anyway, these are really cool, just little mastering things you can use. Like I was saying, I have my own master chains here that I use a lot for stuff. The Pro L is a great thing to just stop it from going above 0, by the way. That's why I had that on here. This is just making it so that it isn't like peaking above 0 and sounding like shitty. Which, by the way, you can peak things above 0 and have it sound good. It really just depends on the shapes of the waves that you use. Sometimes you might choose sounds that worked really well, and sometimes you didn't. You heard that, went over 0, went into the red, sounded like shit. Sometimes I do that, and it sounds fucking great. It just really depends on what you chose to use. These are my master chains that I use almost every day. I just pull them onto things. It's a glue compressor, which is what my original master chain was before I even started using any of this. I would just throw a glue compressor on things, which looks like this when you do it. And I would just pull the attack up to make it so that the transients are being preserved. Because that way the compression is starting 30 milliseconds later. So it doesn't start immediately as soon as the attack of the sound hits. So the attack of the sound, like the drums and shit, excuse me, isn't being changed. Which to me is really important. Like, I don't want that to change. I just want everything to kind of be louder and distort, and maybe the rest of the sounds can be brought up to be a little closer to the attacks of the sounds, to the transients. And I'll pull the release down, and I'll put it on soft clip, pull the makeup up. That's it. Attack up, release down, soft clip, pull the makeup up. Sometimes I'll fuck with the threshold, but it ends up making it sound different. Starts to be kind of compressed and shit. So that was my original thing I would use. Now I've experimented with a lot of other ones. I throw this SSL comp on here because I think that just having one plugin that's like a compressor on your master really helps things just be glued together better. So I use this. I'll play this in a sec. My bad. I use this on here too. It's a very subtle difference, but it also has a makeup knob that's making everything louder. It's just like if you have something that's hitting too hard and maybe you didn't notice, it'll fix it. Sometimes it'll be too much. You got to be really careful and decide what you're going to do with this. And if the makeup's up at 3, I'll sometimes put it down to 0. The makeup is what's making something, like if you're compressing something and you're making it like, which makes it sometimes quieter because you're compressing, let's say you have everything's hitting here and then the snare's hitting like up there. The compressing is going to make it so that the thing that's hitting the loud enough, the loudest, which might be making your shit hit at 0, is now going to be like with everything else. So maybe it's hitting at -2 now. So then now you can use the makeup knob to bring it back up to, you know what I'm saying, to be as loud as it, you know what I'm saying, you can get more loudness by doing stuff like that. Sometimes I have to turn that off because sometimes it sounds whack. But anyway, this helps to glue things together. And then I like the up stereo a lot. But sometimes I don't like this. Sometimes it like widens the overall sound in ways I don't like. It's good to use without looking at it, because when you look at it, it looks cool and you think you're hearing something, but maybe you're not. Very subtle. In this case, it's doing something I like. Sometimes it is not. The other master chain that I use, these are my two just general chains that I drag on stuff. This one's more for like shit that I want to sound like it's peaking, but not in a shitty way. So like beats like maybe in here. Fuck, where's that fucking beat? Like this one. You see how the 808 sounds like it's like that wouldn't have sounded like that if I hadn't used this. And I think the main things that I used to make it sound like that was the gain station, which you can just put on something and like not even really turn any knobs, and it might make it sound like that. It usually does too much, so I have to pull it back. You see, I have it set, like the input's pulled back. That one helps with that a lot. You can use like saturators and stuff. You literally just put a saturator on your master to make things sound like that. I sometimes I want a beat to sound like that. In a lot of cases, I don't. God Particle's a really dope one too. A lot of the time, you can see I have it set like this. I pull them back a little, the EQ things over here. And the limiter, I think it opens set to like 5, which is really loud. So I have it set a little lower. And I'll a lot of the time do that too. I'll like pull it back. This does make things sound better even when you have the limiter set to 0. The limiter is basically just gain, you know what I'm saying? It's basically just making it louder. It does make things sound a little better. This is a Jason Joshua plugin, I'm pretty sure. This one's Mike Dean, Travis Scott guy. Jason Joshua mixed RPG. He mixes, you know what I'm saying? He mixes everything. Really cool plugin. Looks really cool when you use it. You know what I'm saying? Looks nice. So yeah, these are 2 master processing chains I use that I think are really dope. Try some of those out if you want. What else did I want to touch on? Let's see. Talked about that. Let me show some examples of, let me go back into this. Oh, this is already where I'm at. Okay. I'm going to show some examples of like how simple it is to make. And this is going back to when I was talking about splice and talking about like not like being okay with doing less stuff. And and I think from a musician's perspective, this is a little harder sometimes. But again, just a reminder, this all is music. We're just hearing these things. It's okay to do less stuff. People don't really know what you did. There's some producers that are way more okay with this than others. I think it took me a long time to be okay with this, but it's all just different processes, dude. On this one, I've been doing this thing called 16, we call 16th Chapel on Sundays, which is me and Saba and Chance the Rapper and Benjamin Earl Turner and Joseph Chilliams, like a bunch of my friends in Pivot Gang, Femdot. We all get on Zoom like this and we go live on YouTube or Twitch or whatever. So if you guys want to see this, it's a great learning opportunity. You guys should definitely pull up to this. We've been doing this every Sunday, and it's called 16th Chapel. We make something in 16 minutes, and then we show it to each other and also everyone that's watching. So I make a beat in 16 minutes. Saba, Chance, all them, they write a rap in 16 minutes or a verse or a song, however far they get. And then we show it to each other, and then we do another round. So the second round, they have to pick one of our beats that we made. The producers are me and Ambi right now, and there's going to be guests and stuff like that as we keep going. But it's a really cool exercise. It's a really great way to learn from each other and learn from yourself and stuff like that, because setting yourself a timer and doing things in only 16 minutes is a great limitation to let go of stuff. So you don't have time to stop and be like, oh, I gotta make sure this snare is mixed the right way, and it's a great exercise. You have to move on. You cannot stop. So I recommend this to people as a great way to learn about yourself, a great way to learn about how you can let go. You know what I'm saying? So much to be learned from setting limitations. Another way I do limitations is I'll like I was talking about earlier, you only use one drum kit or something. I'll do that on purpose sometimes. I'll be like, all right, today I'm gonna make a beat and I'm gonna just use only this drum kit. And sometimes I'll do it in a way where it's extreme. Like I'm gonna use only this drum kit, and all of the melodies I make are also gonna be made out of these fucking drums. I'm gonna find a way to like EQ these and lengthen the snare sound and then pitch it down and fucking turn it into a synth so I can make it. You know what I'm saying? Limitations bring out creativity out of you. It's hard sometimes, but. So pull up to that, but what I was gonna say is I made this in that. So this is a very quick beat I made. It's called Slum. This is a sample that my friend Broke Boy sent me from Atlanta. Great producer, does a lot of stuff with Russ. I didn't do much on this at all. This is a drum break from my live shit folder from last year. It's from 2023. I have one from this year too. Damn, my nose is so itchy, dude. I keep scratching my nose. Live shit. Bunch of just drum breaks and shit in here. This one's from Tammuz. Great drum break guy. He has them labeled by BPM. I didn't even notice that he did that. I think that's really cool. They're in order. That's what I do. Shout out to the man, dude. You know what I'm saying? That's cool. These ones are, bro, back to knowing your drum kits. I know which ones of these are going to be what they are. Because I looked through them already. Preparation, dude. Organization, preparation. Get in, do the things before the session. Get everything done before you go there so that when you're there, you're ready to go because you already did it. You know what I'm saying? Tammuz, I know, got the good, like, straight up shit, just like AJ Hall. AJ Hall shit be sounding kind of like older and more like super hip-hoppy to me sometimes. And I don't really make beats like that a lot of times, so I got to flip them. Tammuz has shit that I like that I can sometimes just straight, look, I just dropped this in here. Stealing Drums, I guess is this dude's name. He'll have like more interesting shit. Like, what's that? And it'll be off kilter a little sometimes and shit. Like, his shit is more interesting. But like, I know these. Jake Reed, I know his shit is dead drums. So his shit is like, I go in here and it's gonna be drums that sound kind of like they have like a piece of cloth over them or something, you know what I'm saying? They're going to sound like that. He also does them like labeled by, you know what I'm saying, like Ringo or reggae or stuff like that. I think that's cool. I don't really need most of that personally. I'm going in there and listening to Sonics. So I am going to end up having to like chop them. I like a lot of his stuff. I like the Sonics, but I don't really like I don't want reggae stuff. Like this sounds cool. They're really dead sounding. I can slow that down and use that at a different tempo and maybe take out the double snares. And you know what I'm saying? You can slow that down to something like that. Great example of, you know what I'm saying, organization, live shit, got my shit right there, ready to go, grab that shit in. Let's listen to this. All I did was drop this in. This was at 84. I put it at 82 because that was what Broke Boy's thing was at. Did I pitch his shit? I pitched it down too. It's always nice to give your ear something new. I sidechained the drums to Broke Boy's shit, or sidechained Broke Boy's shit to whatever the way you say that is. I think he had some frequencies in here that I didn't really like. And I put the Pultec on his shit to bring the bass out a little bit on the sample. The drums, I literally just have this to make it sound the tube compressor, or it's not a compressor. I guess it is a compressor. This is Tube. It's from G Hertz. I really like that. Helps things sound older. And this is another soft clipper I use. The T-Rax Classic Clipper. I just pulled it up 1.4. You can set it on hard or soft clipping. And that's it. Just put these over each other. And it sounds really nice here. That's it. Great two choices to put over each other. I also had satin on this. This is a plugin that a lot of people don't know about. This is probably one of my most used plugins. I use this a lot to EQ stuff. EQ stuff like naturally. So I'm running it through tape. This is a tape machine. Instead of like EQing the high end off of something, literally just dropping the high end with an EQ, I'll run it through here and I'll use the speed and the different encoders and decoders speeds and the pre-emphasis to make it have less high end if the hi-hats are annoying me or something. So this, with satin on this, I'll just move it around a little and show you what I'm talking about. A soft clip on right here. back up a little, even though I took them off with the pre-emphasis. So now we're a little louder and crispier, but also not crispier in ways that are whack. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got the crispiness we wanted, but it's not annoying the ears, you know what I'm saying? And it's a little louder, it's soft clipping a little bit into the tape, which sounds really nice. The reason I didn't do this heavily is because you got to think about the type of genre of beat you're making. This beat doesn't need to hit that hard. I'm not making a trap beat. This is like a nice sounding beat. It doesn't have to be boom, boom, you know what I'm saying? Even though that's what I like, you don't always have to do that. Think about what genre you're making. Think about what artist you're working with. Whatever your beat that you're making, I always like to say, like, the beat makes itself. Once you start, a lot of the time my process is very much like, I have all these different processes I was talking about earlier, but the first thing I do is very much like, I have a blank canvas and I'm throwing paint at it. And then the paint starts to look like something. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go this way. And then I go straight into that. So if it starts to look like a genre or feel like a genre, I'm like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pick things to go with this. I'm gonna go with this. I'm gonna ride with this. This is what's gonna end up being, you know what I'm saying? And if I gotta come back and I gotta change the melodic, like I was talking about earlier, I gotta mute the sample because I don't like it that much. I'm gonna put a different sample. If it changes vibes later, that's cool. But I let the beat move like through me and be like, I try to be myself as much as I can, but I try to also observe, like, all right, like, what is this becoming? Because a lot of the time when I'm making stuff, I'm not like, more often than not, when I'm making a beat, I'm not going into it with something in my head already. I'm just making stuff. And this is a great practice to just like end up trusting yourself more and more. But sometimes I do go into it like that, and I really want to figure out how to get it out of my head. And that's a really important thing to be able to do too. I think with the loops, like some of these loops that me and Burlo make, and I was gonna show this one. I guess I can just play it right now real quick because I'm probably only gonna go for like 20 minutes. This loop is very like specifically, it's kind of like the comfort one I played earlier. It's like old and like 70s sounding. So when we went into this, we wanted to make something like that. We didn't know what it was going to be. And we ended up making this. Sounds great. I love it. But, you know what I'm saying? I didn't go into that with a blank canvas. I went into that like, all right, we're going to make something like this. Let's talk about it. What instruments are we going to use? We're going to use Keyscape. What kind of effects are we going to use to make it sound like old? Again, the Trillion I used on that, the bass I used on that is the Patitucci R&B again, but it's got some mixing stuff on it that makes it sound older. The vocals are literally just us singing, but bro, don't be afraid of Splice. You can always go on Splice, find something that you can use, make it in the right key, put the right effects on it, the right processing, you know what I'm saying? This is all things that you can get. This is fucking Keyscape. This is Trillion. This is some contact stuff. Our own voices, which a lot of the time we record the voices where they're pitched up like that, because I think we took this, and this is at 78 right now, but I think we recorded the voices at like 65 or 62, 61, and then sped it back up again so that the voices sound kind of like you. It's kind of like doing Logic, where Logic has the Vary speed. Logic has Vary speed where you can like slow it down but in tempo with itself and speed it back up, and once you speed it back up it's like more interesting sounding. It's kind of like that. Like we recorded it at one tempo, at a different tempo, and a slower tempo and slower and lower pitch, and then when we put it back up to the higher pitch and higher tempo, the voices like sounded more interesting. And then we put effects on them and processing and stuff like that. Anyway, so let's go back up through some of these. This is another example of something that was very simple for me to make. This was just a drum break that I had made from my drums. Let's get this out of here. This is from my drums 2024 folder. My desktop is a fucking mess. This is from my drums 2024 folder. Last week I made these, November 15th. I made these one night. I was like literally laying in bed, just fucking, I didn't process these really. I just made them. And I made a couple beats the next day in the 16s actually, out of just taking these things I had already made, preparation and organization, and dropping them over stuff that sounded cool together. So this is another great example of just simple. Did not very much, but I had already done the work kind of. Master processing, same chain. I put an Ampex 102 after it. Default. Oh, and I did the ozone thing. This is something that I do sometimes. If anyone uses ozone, you can open ozone and press this button right here, and it just, I don't know if it's AI or whatever, it just like analyzes your whole thing and gives you a mastering set that you have already. I almost never leave it the way that it gives it to me, but I'll like go off of it. And sometimes I use this to like check, like if it gives me a straight line here, I'm like, okay, I did a good job like with this thing detecting EQ. I did a good job with my EQ, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes it'll do this, like you got too much bass. This has this on it, so if I turn this off, the snare was a little too loud. You can feel it dropping. In the imager, I almost always pull the bass all the way down below 100 because you don't need fucking bass to be stereo like that. The stabilizer I'll pull down, shit like that. But you can see in here the dynamic EQ helping with the snare and the hi-hats a little bit and the highs. That's a cool, another little mastering thing I'll do sometimes. And this Ampex 102 just sounds really nice running through the tape. The snare was too loud. Sounds better with the mastering stuff on it. Didn't do much. Just fucking put the drums I made over the thing. This is what I made the drums from the day before. Sounds cool. Not really the rhythms I want. They start to be different over here. So chopped it up, put a new snare over it, whatever this snare is. Oh no, it looks like I did use the same snare. I just dragged it out and turned it down or something. And there you have it. Simple changes, but works much better that way. Here's another example real quick. This was the original. No, it's not. This is at 97. This is a Kehlani Ellis loop I found. Kind of cool, but not really. Oh, wait. Yeah. Kind of cool, but not really what I wanted it to be. But sonically sounds great. I changed it into this. Way bouncier, I think. Turned into that. And put a loop over it, same type of thing I just was talking about, and did the other thing I was talking about. I put a splice vocal sample over this, pitched it up 3 to make it in the right key, put a couple effects on it, and we have a beat, you know what I'm saying? Simple. As long as you're preparing and you're ahead of yourself, you know what I'm saying, you're gonna be fine. This is something that I like to do a lot. Let's go down and talk about some more drum, just like things that I make. So what I was just doing, where I was talking about how I just make drums randomly. I'll do this a couple times a month. I'll just like make a bunch of drums. Like there, I had made 6 that night. I do this a lot. I'll find drum loops. Sometimes it's based off of a drum loop. Sometimes it's me making things from scratch. Like there's a couple down here. I just got a Mario Luciano folder. I wanted to use some of it, so I used a hi-hat loop from it, put it in the time I wanted it to be at, and like warped it a little bit. I used another loop that has like some rolls and shit in it from his kit, put them over each other, and then I just did some kicks and snares from the same kit. Like I was like, all right, let me just use this kit. This is supposed to be at 155. That's why it sounds like it's warping. Sounds cool. Sometimes when I make these, I just also want to see what they sound like over stuff, so I drop some sample in. This might even be from his folder too. I don't even know. Side chain. Bringing the bass out, bringing the highs down. Running it through this. This is a old 70s type delay I like to use, the UADX thing. The Ampex again. So just a quick thing. Let's go through a couple of these. This is a drum loop that I found from a folder called 100 that I got, which is 100 sample, or what's it called? Royalty free, just loops by these dudes, Angelo and Miles. Really dope producers. They make really cool things. This one sounded like this. No, it didn't. What was this supposed to be at? It's 82. This one sounded like this. Really cool. Personally, if I'm gonna use this, I'm probably not gonna be using those crazy kick things happening. So I took it and just chopped it a little bit. I didn't even change that much of it. And now I could use that, you know what I'm saying? Same thing with this one. This was this. A little too off kilter for me. I didn't want it to be like that, so I quantized it. You can highlight everything here and just quantize. And I didn't even like shorten anything. I just quantized it. Now it sounds like this. No, it doesn't. What's the problem here? 99. Didn't even process it yet, you know what I'm saying? Didn't even do much. And that is way more usable for me. That is something that I feel like I could definitely use compared to the other thing that was just like off kilter as fuck. This one I did this is an interesting way to do things that I wanted to talk about. If I take this off, this is what it originally sounded like. Whoa, this. I heard this and was like, I could probably do something cool with this. What I ended up doing was I put this on beats, and then I put the tempo down like really far, and took that off. That was not like that. It starts like it starts doing weird rolls and shit. I just recorded that. I recorded myself doing that, and then I chopped that and made that. All I did was use the kick from the original. I chopped that and made that into something, so it ended up sounding like this. And I put a Kehlani thing over it. Ah, fuck. What tempo am I supposed to be at? 61? Really interesting, weird drum break, you know what I'm saying? But usable for me. Like, I could use that. I could drop that in and use that in an interesting way. Couple more. This one. I love this. This could probably use some processing to make it like maybe some vinyl sound and stuff like that. But I think this sounds really great. And this came from just like, I found Kehlani had some hat thing. Sonics are there. Sounds cool, but I don't want I don't want that. So sounds great. These are a little bit hiccupy to me. Like, I would put a vinyl thing over this or do some type of processing on this to make it sound like the sounds aren't just stopping, and it was played like live or whatever. But yeah, another great example. And then I'll do it with hi-hats too. I'll do it with, like, instead of making like a drum loop, I'll just make hi-hat loops too. So this is a new example of that. And this is a Spice thing I just downloaded, and it sounded like this. That was it. So I chopped it into that. You know what I'm saying? Great examples of just like making drums and different ways to make them in interesting ways. And just, what's this one? And like, I'm not even processing them. It's just being creative and fucking around. Weird, you know what I'm saying? But interesting. Like, again, probably needs some processing. Probably, maybe I could do that. That'll sound better. I don't know. It probably needs some shit. But just a bunch of ideas here that we can work with. You know what I'm saying? So that, I think I showed a lot of different effects that I do put on drums before this. So I think we've gone over a lot of drum processing stuff without me going back to a lot of those effects. If anyone has questions at the end, we can talk some more about any of those effects. I'm gonna real quick just show, because I didn't really get to this. I wanted to get to just loops a little bit. So let's talk about loops a little bit. And then I'm gonna just take questions. It's been about 2 hours. I'm gonna take questions. We can talk about whatever else you guys want to talk about. I can answer questions. I can go back to things. I'm gonna look at a couple questions that people had for me that I am not sure I answered all of them. So I'll look at those real quick. But yeah, I mean we're getting to the things, dude. We're doing things. I hope everyone been fucking with this. Let's talk about loops real quick, because I know that's another thing that I do, and that's a thing that a lot of people do. And then we'll take some questions. You know what I'm saying? Loops, I think, are a really important. Loops are a really important thing in the music industry, especially now. It's a great way to be like, you could be living in your parents' house and fucking paying no rent or whatever. Like how a lot of kids that are the most successful loop makers are kids that like live with their parents and have nothing to do all the time because they just go to high school or whatever and can just like not pay bills and just do this all the time. And they can just send the shit out. You don't have to. It's an easy like hack or whatever, like trick skip jump thing to not needing the relationships. I think my side of the music industry is a lot more like I'm the guy you send the loops to. I have a lot of the relationships. I'm the guy who makes drums and works with the artists, and I text them and I send them things and I like know them. But you don't have to be in that situation to be successful as a. There's a lot of different paths to being a successul music producer, and one of them is making loops and sending them out, like making the relationship with the producer for the artist you want to work with. So let's say you want to work with Saba, you're like, who's Saba's producer? You know what I'm saying? You find me, you start sending me shit. That's a great way in, I think. I mean, I've done this a lot because I do loops also, so I'll get to know producers and send them shit. For Jay Versace, I'll send him shit for people he's working with, or just a lot of different people that I work with. So this is an example of a loop that I made. I'm just going to talk about different things that I did to make this. Let's play the final product first. So this ended up being like sounding like this. Sounds cool. I made this at 136, so I made this faster. I started with an Analog Lab sound with a bunch of effects on it. It looks like I used a rack guitar effects too. I used one of my racks and chains and just threw it on here. I think I used Ripcord to make these chords. Ripcord is right there, so I think I did that. Excuse me. MP Neo Soul X20. It looks like I used that to make it. Ripcord is there's a lot of someone had questions about making like sound designing and making your shit more interesting. There's a lot of different plugins that you can use to make your shit more interesting without having to have the ideas yourself, like to give yourself inspiration. Ripcord is a cool one because it's basically you run it through a sound and you press one note and it plays a chord, and you can set it to like you can go through different, like this is a soul one. See, it plays the whole chord. I don't know if I have it running through anything right now. Do I? Where is this at? This is, I just lost it again. This is here. Was it running through this keyscape? But my keyscape I have issues with, so this might not work. Yeah, this isn't going to work. My keyscape randomly isn't working sometimes because it's on my hard drive, my external hard drive. But you can see I press this button and you can change how much it's like arpeggiating with these and whether it's going up or down or whatever. And there's a million different, you know what I'm saying? You can get a million fucking different preset things and just go to them and it'll play different chords. Great way to give yourself inspiration if you can't think of chords. Another way is go to YouTube, watch a YouTube video about some guy teaching you about chords. Go to TikTok, watch a video about some guy teaching you about chords. Steal the chords. They always say, steal these chords. Fucking steal the chords and put them on a new sound. I did that, put it on this. Came up with these chords to Ripcord. I think I went in and I'll change a couple things. I'll move a couple things around. Started with that. I flipped that a couple times. So I put it on a new instrument over here. Sounded kind of whack to me, so I turned it into audio. I made each time stop so that it wasn't as, see how it's like ringing out really long? This way it's like, stops. It's like not too ringy. I think I controlled the ringiness with some reverb down here or something. Yeah, right here. Brought that in. This is another synth sound I brought in, Analog Lab. Look, used Guitar Effects 1. I'm using the racks, dude. I'm dragging things in and using them quickly. Analog Lab in here, if you're a loop maker and you want to have a lot of presets and shit to use, Analog Lab is a great one to use. I have a lot of banks in here. These are just banks that people make and you can just download. There's probably like 50 of them in here right now. I don't know what bank this is from. A Truth is one I use a lot. This is probably the bass I was talking about earlier, I would assume. Yep, Patitucci R&B bass. Otherwise, the thing I really wanted to talk about in here was using phrases. A great way to make loops and give yourself inspiration is folders that just have phrases in them. One of them I really like is Beat Center, but again, know your folders. Like this dude has a lot of stuff that sounds like it's running through like a blooper pedal, like doing doing weird shit. And these are very usable in certain like what is that? You know what I'm saying? They're very usable in certain situations, but they're not sometimes. So I have a lot of different phrases, folders from a lot of different people, and I use a lot of different phrases to make loops. So not everything I'm making in this loop is myself. I made the chords, I flipped the chords, I played a bass, I did another little sound, but otherwise everything else in here is like me flipping textures and ear candy things. This is I think a Beat Center thing. It's called Phrase Acro 4. Acro 4. This was this. So I used that part, and I went, and I chopped it. Had it go up octaves, and I put some effects on it and shit like that. Bro, just fuck around, you know what I'm saying? Come up with cool new shit. This is another one. Texture Rhythm. Texture Rhythm. Crazy. You know what I'm saying? Doing crazy shit. Took it, chopped it up. Put some effects on it. Mellow. This is the one I saved. Mellow my heart. Got auto pan on it, so it's moving back and forth. I used a bunch of these. Just put effects on different ones. That is not that. That is me using fucking let's see what sound this is. Strings 2, Pizzicato Ensemble. This is Labs, which is I think free. Everything in here is free. This is another great thing to use. A Labs thing. Put some effects on it. But you know what I'm saying? For the most part, a lot of this, the cool shit in here is me flipping and putting a lot of processing and cool effects on phrases and chopping them up and doing shit with those. This I think was a drum loop that sounded normal. Not super normal, but frequency wise I had bass in it and I turned it into I just put EQs on it. So just have fun, dude. Just fuck around, you know what I'm saying? Be yourself, learn, try new shit. And I almost always flip shit afterwards. This is a great example of something I like to do. I will play, like this was like I'm doing like a pentatonic scale type thing, but I did it really slowly. So I think I went like, this sound isn't working right now because my keyscape gets fucked up because it's on my hard drive, like I said, but I'll do it like bam, boom, boom, bam, boom, boom, bam, boom, boom, bam. I'll do it really slow, and then I'll highlight the whole thing, like it was like over here. I'll highlight the whole thing. I'll just go like that, and that'll be like. That's a really cool way to, you know what I'm saying? Everything is possible, dude. This has a lot of stuff on it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but again, the same way I have a bunch of shit in Analog Lab presets, I do the same thing. I download a bunch of presets in RC20. So many, dude. There's another one called Portal that I like to use. Portal's more of like a you could use it in this one, but not in like any of the 70s loops as much, I guess. Portal's like kind of an experimental, cool sounding one. Go in here. I have so many of them. That vocoder thing I showed you earlier is a cool way to fuck around and change the way things sound. Yeah, that's a great way to make loops. I think my favorite thing to change a lot of this stuff is to flip it at the end, though. Like try different. I'll flip shit throughout. Like I've made the chord progression, I put it on a new sound. I flipped it again right here. I put it in reverse right here. I flipped this one and put it in reverse. But what really makes it fresh to the ear and what makes it sound cool in the end is flipping it for the final time. So you resample it. And then I pitched it down. I think I thought it was, or did I pitch? Yeah. I put it on repitch, which changes it. It's probably in between keys. When you move the tempo, it just like changes. So I went from 136 to 121. So it's pitched down a little, and then I'll affect it more. I'll like put more final effects on it. Pulled the bass, attenuated the bass, the low frequencies. Attenuated some of the high frequencies, even though I also boosted them. But I'm boosting at 5, and I'm attenuating at 10, so. And that's just to check to see where I'm at. So that's a great, you know what I'm saying, way to work on loops and do cool things. Just fuck with phrases and stuff like that. Um, Again, to reiterate some things that I really like to do, I like to stack processes, so have different ways that I like to make things. So, like what I was talking about earlier, sometimes I'll do this, sometimes I'll do that, but I know that like one of the processes I talked about was literally just putting two things on top of each other. One of them is like starting with a hi-hat. I showed one of those starting with like a hi-hat loop and then layering some drums, putting a kick and a snare. One of them was I was talking about like I just drop in random fucking splice loops and just chop them on the splice thing and then layer a kick and a snare over to do some more. You know what I'm saying? Having different ways that you experiment with how to make stuff is cool because then in different situations you can pull out these different things that you know that you can do and have done before. It's really useful to have a lot of different processes. That was like 4 out of like 20 that I probably have. I have a lot of different beat making processes. I have a lot of different loop making processes. I have a lot of different drum making processes. So experimenting with a lot of stuff like that is really cool too. Yeah, let's take some questions, I guess, or I can answer some of these ones that I have from people that I didn't get to, which are right here. Tyler and Tony, why don't you guys let me know what you guys want me to do?
Sure, yeah. Do we have any questions from the participants still in the call?
Where are we at?
Yeah, for sure. Ibs, go ahead.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for the masterclass. I mean, you've been dropping sauce like for the last like 2 hours.
I literally dropped so much sauce.
I've been taking notes and everything.
Nice.
Um, One thing I struggle with is getting that first drop to sound really nice. So like going from that like pre-chorus to that chorus drop, and I just want to know like what are your thoughts on making a really good drop, especially in like R&B, because they're not really like in like EDM where it's like really emphasized.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think that it's the same thing I was kind of talking about. There's like so many folders of drums that you can get, or even just on Splice and stuff that you can try to get like sound effects and stuff like that. One that I think is kind of cool is if this is something that you can do in Ableton. If you take do you use Ableton?
Yeah, I use both FL and Ableton.
This is something you can do in Ableton. If I start at like there, let's say. Let's make that longer. You can write in stuff right here. So if I go to MIDI and I go to pitch bend and then I just do this, excuse me, and then put like a delay on it. Now it sounds like a drop kind of. Like, because it's like lowering in pitch as it goes. It's like lowering down. This is something I do a lot. I like put something in there. Maybe not. This is just an example of lasers, but you know what I'm saying? Anything like that. There's a lot of folders with accents is what a lot of people call them. There's like a thing that you can put there and put delay on it. Like, you know what I'm saying? You just have to make it in the right key. But just find folders of like, look how many I have. Like, these are just different things that I'll use to drop into situations like that. I also, you know what I'm saying, cymbal crashes. If you have addictive drums is a great, you know what I'm saying, they have a lot of cool drums in there. You just put a couple effects on them. You can put cymbal crashes on downbeats. There's probably cymbal crashes in drum folders you have. I would look for accents though and like risers. A lot of risers that you find are like gonna be EDM a lot of the time sounding. Like I'm probably not gonna use that in R&B. You can probably fuck with it in a way that makes it work well enough, but I use white noise a lot for risers to build. Risers, accents, cymbals. You can find like drums that you can put EQs on and stuff like that, but I would say delays on and reverbs and stuff. I would say those are your best bets though. I think that Splice probably has like, if you're ever like looking for something random, just try to find words you can type into Splice, and that'll probably help you.
Okay, bet.
Yeah.
Any more questions from people?
Drum to sound crisp over. How do you approach vocal chain? Oh fuck! I didn't talk about a vocal chain. I can talk about that real quick before we get off. How to make bouncy drums, compression techniques. I didn't talk about that either. I can talk about that real quick. How does your background in classical percussion, drum teaching? I mean, my background in classical percussion and drum line obviously just makes me have really good choices of what drum shit I'm gonna do because I'm a drummer naturally. Some tips for good sound design. I did that. Want to learn more about how he curates his vibe in the studio. I'd be having snacks and shit in here, just like chips and stuff, so people can just eat and like water bottles. Um, I don't like a lot of people here. It says, do you like a lot of people here? I don't really like when artists bring a bunch of people, and I don't really have enough room in here for a bunch of people, so I try not to do that. But snacks and drinks and shit, I think is cool. This person asked about compression. I think compression is much simpler than most people think it is. Like even if I just use the Ableton compressor, it's not like I'm gonna just go to the top peak. You know what I'm saying? The attack is you pull the attack up if you want. Like this doesn't have any drums in it, so I wouldn't worry about that as much. You can also set it to peak for more working with to preserve attack stuff. I won't worry about the attack as much in this though because I'm fucking there's no drums. I'll pull the release down, pull the ratio up a little bit or something. But like a lot of time, like whether it's bass, whether it's drums, whether it's whatever, like I don't really try to compress too heavily a lot of the time. Just like at the top. And I don't think you got to think about it too much. Like a lot of people talk about parallel compression all the time and stuff like that. And these things are definitely useful, but more like when you're really like super mixing and like really being an engineer. As a producer, definitely cool to try things out. Definitely, I'm not trying to talk down on parallel compression. Parallel compression is really cool. Like these things are really useful, but I don't think it should be something that like if you're being a producer and creating stuff is more about creating and creating sound and creating something that sounds cool and making music and stuff. All these things like parallel compression and compression in itself is like more engineer shit, but it's definitely, I'm not trying to say it's not something you would have to do. It's just kind of situational. But it is mostly just like, I feel like for most instruments, for most things that you might compress, it's like kissing the thing. You don't gotta like hit it too hard a lot of the time. So that's compression basically to me. Vocal chain, I'll show real quick right now. It doesn't seem like there's really that many people left in the Zoom, but if anyone does anyone have questions?
I did have another one that kind of came up during the call. I know
Yeah.
before when we were talking, you had mentioned through like executive producing for like Saba and Benjamin Earl Turner, how sometimes you would just oversee the whole production and kind of almost reduce the elements in the song to make it kind of more concise and better as a final product. I was wondering how you kind of approach that when you're making beats, because I find sometimes it's like easy to get so many ideas and add so many layers in that you almost like overproduce a beat where it makes it
Yeah.
almost like tougher for an artist to go over it. So I was curious if you had any insight towards that.
I think it's kind of what I was talking about earlier. Like it is very simple to do too much, but I think you just kind of got to step back and be able to observe what needs to be there and what doesn't need to be there and what's making it better and what's making it worse or what's not doing anything. That's what kind of what I mean by that. Like if it's not adding, if it's not something that's like necessary really to be there, then you can probably take it out. A couple things I showed earlier, like like the circus interlude Saba one, that had like that one like thing I chopped. That probably didn't need to be there. I would say that I could take that out, but otherwise everything else I think needed to be there. Like it's about like gaining like working on the skill of like recognizing what is necessary and what isn't, and what is I guess what is necessary is more and more easy to recognize based off of like what you're going for. So if you're making something that is supposed to be R&B and it has like way too much shit in it, usually R&B is like kind of simple, like the genre. A lot of these things are answered by just listening to music. Like a lot of R&B stuff doesn't have that much shit going on. And if it's a lot of shit going on in the melodic stuff, there's less and less drum stuff going on. If there's a lot of drum stuff going on, there's probably less melodic stuff going on. If there's really rhythmic drums, there's probably less rhythmic melodies. If there's really rhythmic melodies, there's probably less rhythmic drums. It's like these things even each other out, you know what I'm saying? So it's just, yeah, it's like listening to music and like learning that, I think, for yourself, because it's really easy to do too much. I like get that for sure. Um,
Okay, sweet. Thanks. We got another question from Kate. She asked, "What are your tips in making a clean vocal chain?"
yeah, I was about to show some of that. So my vocal chain that I use right now is this. It's this. Set on male vocal, and I like move some of it around. You can just like copy this if you want. It's UAD API. Then I use the Teletronics. This is like the same as the one in Waves, kind of, but it sounds better in UA with the UAD shit. It's like default. I kind of just go off of how I'm doing the peak production of the game. Like I kind of just do it off of like in like situationally. And then I use this as like a de-esser, but I usually use another de-esser after this. In this situation, I didn't use these two because they were already the shit that the Benjamin Earl Turner shit was already recorded through like a tube tech and like different analog gear, and also through his UAD console. He had shit on there. It was like already compressed and already sounded fairly good, so I didn't have to compress it again necessarily, as much as that was. So I didn't do much, but that is my usual chain. This is like what I use. These three things. It's literally like vocal API. Like I have it saved in my chains and stuff. This is what this sounds like.
Is we quirky or psychotic? We might never know. Flood the city with narcotics, but you still ain't dope. You so up, you stuck, you up, you miss what's going down.
So I use this a little bit on the backgrounds. These are like two. The main is just this.
Is we quirky or psychotic? We might never know. Flood.
I am compressing it again. The main does have those compressors on it. I compressed it again. I used the SSL I was talking about earlier. This is what I usually use on vocals to do any type of EQ shit I need to do because it gives a little bit of character. I'm bringing up 0.42, looks like. I'll check it over here. So like I have these little dots. I'm like looking at like the spots that I'm not liking or the spots I am liking frequency wise, and like fixing them or whatever. Brought it up 2 dB at 420, and that's the majority of the main vocal. Then I'm running it through these sends. So on the sends, I have a reverb one that's like a room verb. That's not like super long. It's like kind of a small room. This is like kind of, I think this is the frequency echo. This is like doing some weird shit. It's kind of like a short slap delay kind of thing, but it's also like kind of fucking it up in an interesting way. I think this is a longer reverb that I also put a bandpass on so it doesn't add like more frequencies. And I sidechain the main vocals, like this, the main vocal, I sidechain that to this so that the reverb is more coming up when the vocals aren't happening. Like right there. And then this I used in a couple spots. It's, I guess I was using it here, but I used it like stronger in some other spots, I think, on some other vocal parts. This is Primal Tap. This is like an interesting, I have it on Bounce House. It's like an interesting, it's sound toys, like an interesting delay. And I have Pan Man on it, so it's like moving back and forth. And this sounds like this. So all those together are the sends that I'm using in the background to like make this shit sound cooler. And that's all behind this vocal set to this amount. You know what I'm saying? Parallel compression, whatever the fuck.
Is we quirky or psychotic? We might never know. Flood the city with narcotics, but you still ain't dope.
I took the main, he had a bunch of backgrounds. I took them and like pitched them a little bit with Alter Boy, which is a really cool thing to use on vocals. I usually use this rather than M Auto Pitch. I did some, you know what I'm saying? I did use M Auto Pitch a little bit. And these are backgrounds and they're panned to the right and to the left. And they sound like crazy. And this is two more backgrounds, same thing.
Is we quirky or psychotic? We might never know. Flood the city with
this one has a weird,
you still ain't dope.
There's like a weird high frequency in here that I noticed that I was trying to fix. I don't know where the EQ is for that, but I like did some kind of crazy EQing on that. But that's just this song, so I was just showing examples of things I did in this song. In general, I usually try to just have something that I can just drag on and just use and just change it a little bit if I need to for certain situations. But this is my starting place. And then I have a couple, you know what I'm saying, things that I do over here on the sends and stuff. This is a normal thing that I always use. This is one I saved. Vox, a low-key, small room reverb. This is one that I saved. This is the parameters, if you want to copy that. The long one is this. Live Vox Chamber. The frequency echo I think I made up. And then on Saba's vocals, I did a little... I muted these because his was way louder. I did a little more with, I had to Melodyne a bunch of these.
Yeah, is we worthy of they comments? We may never know. All the karma intertwined, boy, you can't win alone.
I had to Melodyne a bunch of these because he randomly was singing like wrong notes and shit, so I had to fix them. And he just trusts me to just do that shit. And Melodyne works. I don't know if anyone has used Melodyne, but Melodyne is like, usually when I use it, I put it on something. I record, you press transfer, I record whatever I'm using, whatever I need to Melodyne into this. I do whatever I need to do, and then I make a new track and just record it back onto that. Melodyne's kind of interesting. I don't know if I do that right or wrong. I just fucking accomplish the things I need to do. But for the most part, I did the same things on his stuff. I use another compressor, the UAD shit. I'm a big proponent for UAD. I love UAD. But he had a lot of layers and did a lot of shit on his own, so I didn't have to like make as many layers as I did with the Benjamin shit, like making it more interesting because he had already done a bunch of this shit. But I mean, Ben did a lot of shit too. Actually, they both did a lot of shit. I made his shit sound cooler because Saba's shit I didn't. He was already going. He was already doing all these weird voices. But that's like a general vocal chain, I think. Is that fair? Is there more questions about that? Looks like on the master I have the K clip again, gain station again. Pro L is stopping it from getting too loud, and I'm checking the loudness with the WLM. Oh, she said thank you. Cool. Yeah. Did I answer the other questions that I had? How does your background and I talked about that. Sometimes I'm good at sound design. Compression I talked about. Bouncing your drums I talked about. How do you approach vocal chain? I just did that. How do you mix drums to sound crisp? I did that. All right, I think I answered all these questions.
Yeah,
Cool.
I don't think we have any other questions coming in.
Cool.
Yeah, cool, man. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah,
It's
that
been
was a lot
so
of
good.
stuff.
Yeah, so comprehensive. I loved it.